Chapter 1376. The second leader of the Black Market Alliance was dragged out from the pile of rocks by Charlotte, and the branding power energy field stole the information in his brain at that time. While stealing the information, Xia Lei's brain also came up with a conclusion based on the information he obtained. The Black Market Alliance was the Black Market Alliance that dominated this planet. On the surface, it seemed to be just a business organization, but the real situation was completely different. It was a huge organization that combined business and military. It had money and people, and its military was even stronger than the resistance army. No wonder Song Ji had a look of disdain when talking about the resistance army. Song Ji was Blackbeard's man, but at the same time, he was also a member of the Black Market Alliance. Every month, he would pay a considerable membership fee to the Black Market Alliance to protect his business in the underground city of the border wasteland. When something happened to him, the military personnel of the Black Market Alliance stationed in the underground city of the border wasteland rushed over, which led to what happened just now. In addition, the fat man and the thin and tall merchant who were killed by Charlotte were also members of the Black Market Alliance. This time, the enmity with the Black Market Alliance had been sown, and it was a big one. "Leave it to me." Lan Jie walked to Charlotte's side. The saber in her hand was still dripping blood, and her eyes were terrifyingly cold. Charlotte nodded. He understood how Lan Jie felt. She had been caught by Song Ji and humiliated, so even the people of the Black Market Alliance hated her. But it was good to let her vent. Otherwise she would transfer the anger in her heart to someone else. For example, him. "Don't kill me." The leader wearing light armor suddenly became nervous. "I'm not a member of the Black Market Alliance, pooh." The saber in Lan Jie's hand pierced through the helmet of the light armor and into the neck of the leader. Then she dragged the saber horizontally, enlarging the wound. Blood gushed out from the cut on his neck. When the saber left his neck, the leader covered his bleeding neck and fell to the ground. "He said he's not a member of the Black Market Alliance," Charlotte said. Lan Jie said coldly, "No one can deceive the Ahimus. This is an ability given to us by the Creator. This guy said that he wasn't a member of the Black Market Alliance because he was the first to report that he was killed by you. But what does that have to do with me? I just wanted to kill him. I don't need any explanation from him." "Charlotte," Lan Jie pointed to the corpse on the ground and said, "I killed him. His energy gun and armor belong to me." Charlotte shrugged and pointed at the corpse of the other leader. "Then his things are mine." Lan Jie smiled at Charlotte. "Although I hate humans, you're actually a good person." Charlotte said, "Don't talk nonsense. Quickly take off his armor. We have to get out of here as soon as possible." Suddenly, a shout came from outside the stone building. "Master, run!" Charlotte turned around. His gaze pierced through the thick dust that filled the exhibition hall and locked onto a girl. That girl was one of the 8 female slaves he had bought. She was the prettiest and most beautiful girl. That girl had escaped from the stone building when the battle had happened, but she hadn't left. Not only her, but the other 7 girls were still here. They hadn't abandoned him, their master. Under the lead of the prettiest and most beautiful girl, the other 7 girls followed her into the exhibition hall on the first floor of the stone building. Just as they entered the exhibition hall, Charlotte saw a large number of armed men running over from the street. The equipment and uniforms of those armed men were basically the same as those that had just been killed. It seemed that the reinforcements from the Black Market Alliance had arrived. This underground city wasn't big, and it had its own base station. Information could be transmitted to any corner of the city in a second. The Black Market Alliance had sent dozens of armed men to protect their members and businesses, but they didn't expect to be completely wiped out. Therefore, it was inevitable that all the armed forces in the underground city would be mobilized. The streets of the market were densely packed with armed men of the Black Market Alliance moving quickly. There were at least 200 of them. There were also 4 other humanoid mecha. When they moved, the rumbling sounds made by their feet made people nervous. The merchants and customers in the market had already fled far away. No one dared to stay in this market, except for those 8 poor girls. "Master? Master, you're here." The prettiest and most beautiful girl finally saw Charlotte. She wanted to get close to Charlotte, but she was a little afraid. She only took 2 steps towards Charlotte before stopping. She nervously said, "Master, quickly leave here." Outside. Boom. Boom. The footsteps of the humanoid mechs approached. This made the girl even more nervous. She couldn't continue speaking. But she believed that with such a loud noise, her master already knew what had happened. Charlotte sighed, "You've already escaped. Why did you come back? I gave you money. You should take that money and leave." The prettiest girl bit her thin lips. "Our village has already been destroyed. The people in the village, my family, were all killed by that evil man Song Ji. Where else can I go? Master, we no longer have a home." Another girl said. Dense footsteps could be heard. The Black Market Alliance's armed men had already quickly surrounded the stone building. Charlotte said, "Lie on the ground and don't move." The 8 girls didn't hesitate and obediently lay on the ground. They still had a pitiful amount of cloth on their bodies. When they lay on the ground, the 8 big white blobs were displayed in front of their master. Some were thin, some were fat. Regardless of whether they were fat or thin, their big white blobs were all dirty. Charlotte used his fastest speed to remove the light combat armor from the leader, whose neck he had broken, and put it on. The whole process took no more than a minute. After that, he walked towards the door of the stone building. Lan Ji also removed the light combat armor from the other leader's body. She had not finished putting it on. When Charlotte walked towards the door, she didn't care anymore. She grabbed the energy pistol that had fallen on the ground and followed Charlotte. Charlotte turned around and said, "Didn't you hear me clearly? I said get down, including you." "You." Lan Ji said angrily, "I'm not your slave." Charlotte said, "If you want to die, then come out. If you want to live, then listen to me and lie down obediently." Lan Ji's lips moved as though she wanted to say something. However, she didn't say anything in the end. In the end, she still listened to Xia Lei's words and obediently lay down. She knew Charlotte's secret. This was the reason why she was willing to listen to Charlotte's arrangements and lie down. Charlotte walked towards the door of the stone building. His eyes were extremely cold. His eyes quietly turned black. It only took a breath's time for them to turn completely black. After that, his eyes were like black holes in the depths of the universe, devouring everything that came close to him. If killing was the only way to solve this crisis, then let's go all out. The human world was already extremely dirty. Sometimes it needed to be purified. The moment Charlotte stepped out of the door, his body was pointed at by more than 200 guns. The fiendish armed men and the terrifying firepower of the humanoid mechs. The comparison between his strength and that of the Black Market Alliance was too horrible to look at. However, he just stood there like a tall and straight pine tree. No matter how strong the wind was, it couldn't shake him. The other party didn't open fire immediately. If they opened fire, the killing would begin. The one being slaughtered would not be their opponent, but them. An old man walked out from behind a group of armed men and stood in front of Charlotte. He was around 60 years old. He was slightly plump and had fair skin. With one glance, one could tell that he was an old man who lived a good life and was in good health. "Who are you?" The old man's voice was filled with a sense of pressure. Charlotte just looked at him and didn't say anything. Since the establishment of this underground city, in the past 100 years, no one has ever dared to declare war on our Black Market Alliance. You are the first. The old man's voice sounded. I'll give you one last chance. Answer my question and kneel down. Just as the old man spoke, Charlotte's branding power energy field had expanded to the extreme. Within a radius of 100 meters, Everyone's thoughts were in his branding power energy field. Within this limited range, he was in control of everything. He was the absolute ruler. As long as someone was within this range, all brain waves would not be able to escape the energy field's detection. This increase in range actually surprised Charlotte. When he was on Earth, his branding power energy field couldn't reach such a large range. After coming to the new world, the blue moon in the sky shackled his branding power energy. But his evolution had been subtly carried out, and it never stopped. Was this because he drank too much milk on Earth? Unable to get the correct answer, Charlotte's mind wasn't on this. While the old man was speaking, he quietly laid out the plan and at the same time stole information from the old man's brain. The old man's name was Hayakawa Shinsuke. He was a descendant of a Japanese immigrant from Earth. He was the leader of the Black Market Alliance's garrison in the barren underground city, and his title was Castellan. Just from the title of Castellan, it wasn't hard to guess the resistance army's awkwardness here. They were the main force that protected this underground city built by humans, but the party that controlled this city and reaped the most benefits was the Black Market Alliance. Looks like you don't want one last chance. No matter who you are, no matter where you come from, you are the enemy of the Black Market Alliance. You are dead meat. Hayakawa Shinsuke raised his right arm. Whoosh! All the armed men pulled back the bolts of their guns. In the next second, more than 200 guns and cannons opened fire. Even if Charlotte was wearing the light armor of the Blue Moon people, he would be drowned in the rain of bullets. Charlotte's lips curled into a cold smile. He finally spoke. Do you want to die? Chapter 1377. Do you want to die? This was a very arrogant line in any movie. The person who said this usually had the upper hand. They either had a large group of people behind them, or they already had a gun pointed at the other person's head. However, this sentence coming from the mouth of a person who was surrounded by more than 200 armed men and 4 humanoid mechs, it was as strange as it could get. After this sentence, there was a brief silence. After a brief silence, there was a burst of cold laughter. No one took Charlotte's threat seriously. In their eyes, Charlotte was just a man who was about to die. As long as Hayakawa Shinsuke swung his right arm forward, he would be dead. Go to hell, Hayakawa Shinsuke said. His right hand was about to fall. The corner of Xia Lei's mouth still maintained a hint of a cold smile. Wait. Stop. A man's voice suddenly rang out, and the earth-shattering tension stopped for a moment. The sound of footsteps could be heard. It was the sound of an army marching in unison. Under the leadership of Liang Tao, the people of the resistance army finally arrived. There were also about 200 people in the resistance army. Their military discipline was obviously higher than the armed men of the Black Market Alliance. However, the resistance army's equipment was not presentable. Their weapons were all over the place, and many of them were rusty, broken guns. The resistance army also did not have the most expensive humanoid mechs in the Black Market Alliance. Compared to the Black Market Alliance, they looked shabby. If the armed men of the Black Market Alliance were compared to the well-equipped regular army of a country, then the resistance army was like a guerrilla army. The appearance of Liang Tao and the resistance army made Charlotte frown. He had already set up a trap and was ready for a cleansing massacre. However, Liang Tao had brought the resistance army over at this time, and it was difficult for him to carry out his plan. His branding energy field was not intelligent. It knew who was an enemy and who was an ally. Once the massacre began, the resistance army would also become the target of attack. Those who came to help became a hindrance. The resistance army always seemed to play an awkward role. Don't be impulsive. Liang Tao quickly ran over and shouted, I am Liang Tao. Charlotte couldn't help but reveal a bitter smile. He thought to himself, everyone here knows that I'm Liang Tao, right? Hayakawa Shinsuke put down his right hand and said coldly, Advisor Liang, what are you doing here? Why did he bring so many people with him? Did he want to start a war with us? If so, you'd better think about the consequences. The moment he opened his mouth, it was an undisguised threat. Liang Tao was the chief staff officer of the resistance army. From this point alone, it was not difficult to see that the Black Market Alliance really did not put the resistance army in their eyes. Liang Tao came to Hayakawa Shinsuke's side with a smile on his face. We have signed a peace treaty. Why would we start a war? I heard the explosion and was worried that someone would cause damage, so I brought some people over to take a look. Hayakawa said, You have seen it. You can go now. Take your people and leave this place. The corner of Liang Tao's mouth twitched slightly as a hint of anger flashed across his eyes. But Liang Tao was Liang Tao. He was thick-skinned. He smiled and said, Mr. Hayakawa, that's not very nice of you to say that. He raised his hand and pointed at Charlotte. He is our commander-in-chief's fiancé. You brought so many people to kill him. How can I leave? When the word fiancé came out of Liang Tao's mouth, even Charlotte was stunned. He wondered if he had heard it wrong. What? Hayakawa Shinsuke looked surprised. He pointed at Charlotte and said, This guy is Kanto Nana's fiancé? Liang Tao, are you lying to me? I have never heard that Kanto Nana has a fiancé. Liang Tao placed his right hand on his heart and raised his left hand above his head. I swear to God, if I tell half a lie, I will not be able to get it up. Above his head was the earth's crust, and he could not see the sky at all. As the saying goes, swear to God does not hold water at all. Hayakawa Shinsuke snorted. I don't care if what you said is true or not. This person not only destroyed the Black Market Alliance's business, killed our members, and killed so many of our warriors. Based on the nature of this matter, even Kanto Nana would not be able to let it go so easily, let alone you. Then what do you want? Liang Tao's voice turned cold. War? That would be a lose-lose situation. Neither of us can bear the consequences. I don't care if I become the Resistance Army's chief advisor since I don't get paid. But you, Mr. Hayakawa, once you lose control of the underground dungeon, I'm afraid your position in the Black Market Alliance will. Liang Tao did not finish his sentence, but Hayakawa Shinsuke understood what he meant. In this dog-eat-dog world, he had climbed to where he was today by stepping on the corpses of countless people. Everything he had was not easy to obtain, and it was stained with blood. But once he lost control of the underground dungeon, everything he had worked hard to achieve would be gone. The person who wanted to replace him would not give him a chance to make a comeback. Even if he had a chance, he was not young anymore. Therefore, Liang Tao's words made him hesitate. It was easy to start a war. A word or a gesture was all he needed to do. However, he did not want to face the consequences after that. Mr. Hayakawa, it's just a small business. It doesn't matter if it's ruined. It's not a big deal if a few of our men die. I know it will be difficult for you to retreat. How about this? The resistance army will make some concessions. After a pause, Liang Tao moved closer to Hayakawa Shinsuke's ear and whispered, The resistance army has 1/3 of the control of this market. It's yours now. Are you serious? Hayakawa Shinsuke was shocked. Liang Tao said solemnly, Mr. Hayakawa, do I look like I'm joking with you? Let our commander-in-chief's fiancé follow me, and 1/3 of the control of this market will be yours. If you start a war, I believe I don't need to tell you the result. Hayakawa Shinsuke laughed coldly. It seems like that guy is really Kanto Nana's fiancé. Fine, I accept your proposal. He's yours. Take him and get lost. The conversation between the two, and even their thoughts, were all under Xia Lei's control. When Liang Tao offered 1/3 of the control of the market in exchange for his freedom, Sherlock was touched. But he was also helpless. The resistance army was in an awkward situation in the underground dungeon and elsewhere. They could not do much even if they wanted to. When Liang Tao and Hayakawa Shinsuke reached an agreement, Charlotte did not stop them. It was easy to stop them. He just had to hypnotize Liang Tao and let him leave with the resistance army. Then he would carry out his original plan of killing the underground black market alliance members to purify the underground dungeon. It wasn't difficult for him to achieve this goal, but he had to face the consequences of doing so. The Black Market Alliance was a huge organization, and it wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe it as an invisible empire. If he destroyed the armed forces of the Black Market Alliance in the underground dungeon, the Black Market Alliance would definitely retaliate. He could go wherever he wanted, but the Resistance Army would have to bear the Black Market Alliance's wrath for him. One could not just do things for a moment of pleasure. One had to think about the people who treated him well and think about the consequences. Xia Lei's eyes moved to Hayakawa Shinsuke's face, and he said in his heart, "I know where you live, I know the people around you, and I know everything about you. I will come to visit you in private, and it won't be long." "Put down your weapons," Hayakawa Shinsuke ordered. All the armed forces of the Black Market Alliance put down their weapons, but they were on high alert, ready to fight at any time. Hayakawa Shinsuke walked over to Charlotte. "Can you take off your helmet and let me see your face?" "Sure." Xia Lei took off the helmet of his light armor and smiled. "Do you want to remember my face?" "You must remember it well." Hayakawa Shinsuke stared at Charlotte as though he wanted to eat Charlotte alive, but his tone was friendly. "You are indeed a good-looking person. No wonder Kanto Nana fell for you and became your fiancé." Charlotte only smiled. He had inexplicably become Kanto Nana's fiancé. What would Kanto Nana think if she found out? But one thing was for sure, she would definitely seek revenge from Liang Tao. Hayakawa Shinsuke's voice suddenly turned cold. "Your face will soon spread across this planet. Once you leave this place, the Black Market Alliance will have their eyes on you. While you are still alive, *CK Kanto Nana a few more times. Otherwise, you won't get another chance." Charlotte did not get angry. He leaned closer to Hayakawa Shinsuke. "Mr. Hayakawa, the reason why I let you see my face is because I want you to know who you are facing the next time we meet." "Ha ha ha." Hayakawa Shinsuke laughed. "You're not the first person to threaten me like that. But I'm telling you, those who threaten me like that are all dead. You'll be next." Charlotte laughed, but he did not make a sound. Liang Tao walked over. "What are you two talking about? Aha, I am so happy to see the two of you bury the hatchet." Hayakawa Shinsuke did not even say a word to Liang Tao. He turned around and left. The armed forces of the Black Market Alliance retreated like the receding tide. Liang Tao glared at Charlotte. "Brother, you let me and Hani Fei look at the documents, but you came out to cause trouble. You are really something. If I came a few seconds later, you would be dead. I don't care. In order to save you, the Resistance Army gave up half of the city's control. You owe me a life and millions of dollars to the Resistance Army. You can only repay them by joining the Resistance Army." Charlotte patted Liang Tao on the shoulder. "Brother, thank you." Liang Tao was taken aback. "You want me to repay you so much with just one sentence?" Charlotte smiled. "Do you want me to take back my words?" Liang Tao was speechless. Lan Ji and the 8 girls walked out of the stone building. Liang Tao's attention was instantly diverted at the sight of the tall, sexy, and seductive Ahemus woman. He greeted her with a smile. "Hello, Mississippi. My name is Liang Tao." "Go away. I don't want to talk to you," Lan Ji said. Liang Tao was speechless. Chapter 1378. Did Charlotte owe the Resistance Army? Not at all. Even putting aside the things that Liang Tao got from the Yellow Station's treasury, just saving Hani Fei and handing over Professor Pompei's research materials and experimental records to the Resistance Army was enough to offset the sacrifices that the Resistance Army had made for him this time. Not to mention the fact that he had asked Li and I to give the manual machine tool that he had made to the resistance army. The value of that machine tool was not any lower than the value of the 1/3 of the market that the resistance army had given up. White House. Liang Tao's office. My good brother, for my sake, stay for 2 more days. Liang Tao pretended to be pitiful. His expression and tone of voice did not match his age at all. It was as if he was 40 years younger. Why? Charlotte said. Don't pretend to be confused, okay? Liang Tao said with a bitter smile. You clearly know that our commander-in-chief is coming. I promised her that you would wait for her here. If you leave, how will I explain it to her? All right, for your sake, I'll wait here for 2 more days. Charlotte said. Ha, you really are my good brother. I didn't save your life in vain. Liang Tao laughed very happily. Charlotte was a little speechless. He did not think that Liang Tao had saved his life. On the contrary, Liang Tao had appeared at the most inappropriate time and disrupted his plan. Liang Tao said excitedly, The main reason our commander-in-chief came here this time is to see you. She wants to personally persuade you to join the resistance army. You must give her face and join the resistance army. Let's create a future together. With us brothers working together, this world. Before he could finish speaking, Charlotte had already walked to the door. Why are you like this? Liang Tao said unhappily, I haven't finished speaking. Where are you going? Charlotte had already disappeared from the door. Liang Tao shrugged. I want you to introduce me to that Akimis woman. You're not even willing to fulfill such a small request? Are we still brothers? That's too much. This was the real purpose of him talking so much nonsense, but how could Charlotte not know what was going on in his head? Teacher Xia, please follow me. I'll take you to your room. Ramona was already waiting in the corridor. Okay, thank you, said Charlotte. How is the chief now? Ramona asked. Charlotte was silent for a moment, then said, When I left, the village was attacked by the lascivious cat tribe and the stubborn rock tribe. The village was destroyed. If the village chief, Hunyo, and the others were here, it would be fine. When I left, the village chief had already made a decision. She will lead the people of Peace Village to seek refuge with the resistance army. I believe it won't be long before you see each other again. I'm relieved. Thank you, Teacher Xia. Ramona's eyes were filled with respect. Charlotte smiled. What are you thanking me for? Everything. Everything you've done for Peace Village. Ramona also smiled at Charlotte. Her dark face was even more enchanting because of the smile. The two chatted and laughed as they came to the door of a room in the White House. The 8 girls and Lan Ji were all standing at the door of his room. 9 women, 1 door. This scene filled one's imagination. Looks like I have to leave, Ramona said with a smile. It's that room. Teacher Xia, you can go by yourself. I don't want to be treated as an enemy. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Goodbye. Ramona turned and left, saying in a small voice, Really, there are women staring at me wherever I go. I'm worried for the village chief. Of course, this voice didn't escape Charlotte's ears. The bitter smile on his face deepened as he walked over. Why are you guys still here? The pretty girl looked delicate and pitiful. Master, you bought us. We are all your people. Other than following you, where else can we go? The other 7 girls also looked at Charlotte. They were wearing tattered military uniforms that were given to them by someone. Their faces were dirty and they looked more pitiful than the other. They really looked like homeless beggars. It was actually very easy to drive them away. He just had to harden his heart and drive them away. However, looking at their pitiful looks and thinking about the dangers they would face after leaving this underground city, Charlotte couldn't harden his heart. He actually understood why they were pestering him. The reason was very simple. It was because he could protect them. Also, they thought that he was a good person. In this day and age, if one wanted to meet a good person, they really needed to be very, very lucky. They were lucky to meet Charlotte at the most critical moment when they were about to be pushed into the fire pit. How could they leave Charlotte so easily? Not to mention that they would leave after a few words from Charlotte, they would probably not leave even if he beat them up. Forget it, forget it. Charlotte pushed the door open. Let's talk in. The 8 girls followed Charlotte into the door. Lan Ji-er was the last to enter Charlotte's room. From her expression and reaction, she actually sympathized with the 8 girls' experience. She just didn't express it. It was a small room with a bed and a table. However, there was only one stool. Be it the bed, table, or stool, they were all made of stone and looked very rough. With the economic strength of the resistance army, they obviously couldn't decorate the room as luxuriously as Song Ji. With such a simple room, Charlotte couldn't even invite the women to sit. He shrugged. You guys sit on the bed. I'll just stand. Only one woman sat on Charlotte's bed. It was Lan Ji-er. The 8 girls didn't dare to sit on Charlotte's bed. They stood by the bed and looked very cautious. They were afraid that they would do something wrong and offend Charlotte. Sit down. If you want to stay, then you have to listen to me, Charlotte said. The 8 girls looked at each other. The exchange of glances seemed to have reached a consensus. Only then did they carefully sit on the bed. Charlotte had a helpless expression. Tell me, what should I do with you guys? Take us in, the beautiful girl said. Yes, take us in. We can do anything. I can wash clothes. I can cook. I can clean. I can fold the quilt. The girls talked about a lot of things they could do. They only stopped short of telling Charlotte that they could warm the quilt and have children. Charlotte smiled bitterly. I don't even have a home. How am I supposed to take you in? You've experienced what happened in the market. You should know what's going on. Now that the entire Black Market Alliance wants to kill me, it'll be very dangerous for you guys to be with me. We're not afraid. We'll be in more danger if we leave you, the beautiful girl said. Charlotte had a headache. What do I have to say to make you guys understand? We don't want to understand. We just want to follow you, a girl said. Charlotte was speechless. The negotiation seemed to have entered a stalemate. At this time, Lan Ji-er said, You bought them, so you have to take responsibility for them. You're a man, so you have to take responsibility for a man. I have to take responsibility for them? Charlotte was already beginning to regret it. If he had killed Big Rat and Song Ji in the beginning, there wouldn't be this trouble now. But because he wanted to catch the big fish, Blackbeard, he held back and didn't do it. In the end, Blackbeard didn't appear. He also earned 8 troubles because of his kindness. Of course, Lan Ji-er continued to cause trouble for Charlotte. Don't you know what it means to buy women in that kind of market? It means that they're already your women. You can hit them and sleep with them, but you can't drive them away. At least, I've never seen a person who bought a female slave drive away his female slave. Okay, don't say any more. I'll think of a way. Charlotte was a little annoyed with her. I have a way. Lan Ji-er said, buy a house in this underground city and settle them down. You can give them weapons and they'll protect themselves. The Resistance Army's branch is here. With your relationship with the Resistance Army will also take care of them. Buy a house? Charlotte looked very surprised. You're a man, don't you want a home? Lan Ji-er asked. With a house and female slaves, it was equivalent to having a home in this new world. However, Xia Lei had never thought of starting a family in this new world. His heart was filled with thoughts of going home, so how could he have thought of buying a home here? But after thinking about it carefully, he felt that this was a good way to solve the problem. Buying a house, buying some weapons, and letting these 8 girls live here was indeed much better than chasing them away and letting them wander outside without a home. After a long silence, Charlotte finally nodded. Okay, anyway, I'll be here for a few days. If you promise to wait for me, I'll go buy a house and weapons tomorrow. How about it? I'm fine with it. Lan Ji-er immediately agreed. Then you go out for a while. I'll talk to them, Charlotte said. You're really impatient, pervert. Longier glared fiercely at Charlotte, got up and went out the door. As soon as the door closed, the 8 girls suddenly became a little nervous. The beautiful girl even blushed and didn't dare to look at Charlotte's eyes. The bolder ones not only stared straight at Charlotte, but also intentionally or unintentionally adjusted their thighs, flipped their hair, and so on. Seducing men, girls were born with it. Charlotte coughed. Are you willing to do anything for me? The 8 girls nodded together. Well, I have a request. Charlotte hesitated, rubbing his hands, as if he couldn't open his mouth. The beautiful girl suddenly plucked up her courage and stood up. I'll sleep with you. Ah! Charlotte was stunned. We can all do it. The other 7 girls also stood up. The beautiful girl timidly added, I'll take a bath first, can I? Charlotte hurriedly said, No, I don't mean that. I mean, can you give me milk? This time, it was the 8 girls' turn to be stunned. Charlotte tried very hard to put on a serious look. For the future of mankind, help me! The 8 girls nodded in unison. The beautiful girl decisively pulled down the zipper of her tattered military uniform. When she was about to reveal what Charlotte wanted, Charlotte rushed forward and grabbed her hand. What I want is not the milk on your body, but the milk you drink. The girls. What was the difference? Chapter 1379. Drinking milk to evolve. This was the path of evolution that Charlotte created himself. On the Earth, he relied on drinking milk to eliminate the side effects of evolution. His branding power also increased significantly. However, after coming to the New World, the blue moon in the sky limited his branding power. Except for some milk from Linqing, he didn't drink milk again. But in the underground city, the blue moon in the sky couldn't limit his branding power. Drinking milk was a very easy thing for him. The 8 girls were all 17 or 18 years old. Although they didn't develop well because of malnutrition, producing milk was absolutely not a problem. He only needed to deeply touch their bodies, let their bodies skip the stage of pregnancy and childbirth, and directly enter the breastfeeding period. There was nothing that the girls didn't want to do. Charlotte saved them from the fire pit, avenged them, and even prepared to buy them a house so that they could have a place to live. In the face of such kindness, why wouldn't they be willing? Of course, explaining to the 8 girls why he could produce milk was a very troublesome thing, because he had to face 8 mouths. Master, are you implying that we should give you children? No, it's just producing milk. Charlotte said. Master, if we don't have children, where will the milk come from? You don't have to worry about this, I will take care of it. Charlotte said. How to do it? Do it now. Master, you really don't have to be embarrassed. You are a good person, we are willing to do anything for you. Master, we are your female slaves, we are willing to do anything. Master. Don't call me master, how many times do I have to say it before you remember? Yes, master. Master, you should rest, let me help you take off your clothes. I will get you some water to wash your feet. I will make the quilt. The 8 girls spoke one after another, and the room was filled with their voices. This master was too kind and gentle to women, they simply didn't have the slightest fear of him. Charlotte was dizzy from the noise. When the girls surrounded him to help him take off his clothes, he suddenly said loudly, Look at my eyes. The 8 girls looked into his eyes out of reflex, and then they quietened down. The 8 girls all came from the Mu family village at the edge of the Forest of Peace. The people in the village all had the surname Mu, so they all had the surname Mu. The most beautiful girl was called Mu Kaiyun, but she was not the oldest. The oldest was a girl called Mu Xiang. In addition, there were Mu Xiaohong, Mu Xiaoxi, Mu Mu, Mu Yu, Mu Zhaodi, and Mu Xiaoxiao. Their names gave people the feeling that they were casually given, but their parents were illiterate. Who could expect their parents to give them elegant and pleasant names? Though their names were ordinary and casual, like a rock in the mountains or a wildflower by the river, they had kindness and simplicity that the people of the underground city did not have. It was these simple and kind girls who formed a milking alliance, but they did not know that they would make a great contribution to the great revival of mankind. Half an hour later, Charlotte left his room. The girls of the Moo family village were all sleeping on his bed. He deeply hypnotized them and let their bodies enter the nursing period. They could actually produce milk immediately, but their bodies were still very weak and they were so young, so Charlotte wanted them to have a good rest and eat more nutrition to nourish their bodies. But even so, after walking out of the room, Charlotte still felt a trace of guilt in his heart. He even regretted the decision to let them produce milk for him. They are still so young, and have I become a pervert? Of the 8 girls in the Moo family village, 5 were 18 years old, and 3 were 17 years old. According to the standards of Earth, the 3 17-year-old girls were not even adults, but he made them produce milk for him. This really seemed a bit perverted. But one could not look at a problem on the surface, and one could not use the standards of Earth to measure the people and things in the New World. In the New World, because of the sharp decline in the population, the status of women was extremely low. Most girls became mothers at the age of 15 or 16 and began to reproduce. Therefore, the standard of adulthood in this world should be 15 or 16 years old, not 18 years old. More importantly, the humans on this planet were already on the verge of extinction, but the humans themselves could not unite to fight against the foreign enemies. Not only that, the humans themselves were constantly fighting among themselves. Villains such as Blackbeard, Lascivious Cat, and Skeleton even colluded with the Blue Moon people and betrayed humans in exchange for their own interests. There was also the Black Market Alliance. This organization had strong financial and military strength, but they did not fight with the Blue Moon people. Instead, they occupied the human underground cities and did evil business that angered both humans and gods. They fought for territory with the Resistance Army, who fought for humans and restrained the development of the Resistance Army. Under such a background, coupled with 2 almost invincible enemies, Kasha-Ruiz and Isadabu, he yearned for more power every minute. Only by becoming stronger and stronger could he have a chance to turn the tables. He yearned for power, and his power came from milk. This was a special environment, a special time, so he could not care less about the red tape brought from Earth. He would drink milk when he needed it, and it did not matter who gave it to him. Moreover, the girls in the Moo family village were very willing, so why should he care? Walking out of the White House, the city in front of him was no longer bright, and only a few places were still lit. There was no alternation between day and night in the underground city, but people always needed to rest. The night in the surface world was also the night in the underground city, and this was the time when the people in the underground city went to bed. Charlotte walked on the street and then walked in the direction of the market. When crossing a simple 2-story stone building, Charlotte stopped and shifted his gaze to the dark alley beside the stone building. He said calmly, "Are you trying to follow me or peep at me?" "Humph." A woman's voice came from the dark alley, and then the Akimis woman walked out from a dark corner. "You're so ugly, do you think I'll peep at you?" Charlotte looked at Langier. "Then you're following me. What do you want from me?" "We're partners. You want to get rich, but you didn't call me, so of course I have to follow you," Langier said. Charlotte was slightly stunned. "How do you know what I want to do?" Langier said calmly, "I've said it before. This is the ability that the Creator gave us Akimis. If I want to know, I can know." "What exactly is that ability?" "That's the secret of us Akimis," Langier said. The Akimis woman had some kind of ability, or else Charlotte would have stolen the information in her brain long ago in the stone building. However, he couldn't use the branding power to invade her brain at all. Although she was unwilling to say it, Charlotte had his own guesses. "I can't invade her brain, which means I can't use that evil method to eat her." If I can't eat her, the Blue Moon people can't eat her either. In other words, the Akimis aren't on the Blue Moon people's menu? Maybe the secret of the Akimis can help the humans. With this thought in mind, Charlotte didn't stop and continued to walk toward the market. Lan Jie followed behind Charlotte. What did you do to those 8 girls? They fell asleep, Charlotte said. Lan Jie's lips curled into a disdainful smile. Aren't you a little too fast? Charlotte glared at her. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm not the kind of man you think I am. I just wanted them to rest. I don't believe you. You men's minds are filled with the desire to do that kind of thing. You saved them and treated them very well. Isn't it normal for them to use that kind of thing to repay you? Lan Jie seemed to be certain of what Charlotte had done. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat and he had some guesses. Doesn't she know what she wants to know? She knows that I'm going to Song Ji's place to retrieve his hidden belongings, but she insists that I did that kind of thing to those girls. This doesn't make sense. What's with her ability? When they were about to reach the market, Charlotte stopped in his tracks. Lan Jie asked, "Why did you stop?" Charlotte took 2 steps forward and stopped again. Lan Jie furrowed her brows. Are you crazy? Charlotte did not say anything. He stared straight at Lan Jie and thought to himself, you're the one who's crazy. You're a female zebra. You're so big, but you don't produce any milk. What a waste. What's wrong with you? Lan Jie's brows furrowed even more. Charlotte suddenly laughed. You don't know what you want to know, do you? You just guessed what I was going to do. Also, you don't have any special ability at all. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been caught by Song Ji. However, you Assamese do have secrets because you're not on the Blue Moon people's menu. Tell me, what is it? Lan Jie snorted. You arrogant fellow. Do you really want to know? Charlotte nodded. Yes. Lan Jie said, I'm not telling you. Charlotte was speechless. Lan Jie pushed aside Charlotte, who was blocking her way, and strode into the market. Xia Lei followed her and looked at her wriggling buttocks. He thought to himself, your buttocks are so big. I wonder if a man has ever touched them before? It's said that women with big butts can give birth to sons. Do you know how to give birth to sons? Lan Jie did not turn around. Charlotte smiled. It was wrong to scold her in his heart, but he had used this method to confirm one thing. Lan Jie did not have any ability to think. Otherwise, she would have been angry at him for scolding her like that. He thought to himself, she must have found out about his secret because of some other reason. I must find out about the Assamese secret. I'm going to the Forest of Rest. Lan Jie walked quickly, and Song Ji's stone building soon appeared in front of the 2 of them. A few armed men were guarding the door. From their weapons and equipment, they were not from the Black Market Alliance, nor were they Song Ji's men. Chapter 1380. There were a total of 5 armed men guarding the entrance of the stone building. Their clothes and weapons were not uniform. Their exposed faces and arms were covered in evil tattoos. Their bodies were also covered in metal things like skulls and spikes. It was very eye-catching. The armed men of the Black Market Alliance all had uniform weapons and clothes. Song Ji's bodyguard was dressed very normally. After all, he was a businessman. He would not bring armed men like this to do business. Otherwise, the buyer would be scared away before they even opened their mouth. They were not from the Black Market Alliance, nor were they Song Ji's men. However, Charlotte knew who they were. Song Ji had sent someone to inform Blackbeard. These armed men were Blackbeard's men. The 5 armed men looked at Lan Jie and Charlotte warily as they walked toward the stone building. One of the armed men with a red nose stared at Charlotte. His eyes seemed to be observing and suspicious. Lan Jie stopped. I'll leave it to you. Charlotte stepped past Lan Jie and walked toward the entrance of the stone building. He knew that Lan Jie's combat power was actually very high. She did not make a move but let him deal with the armed men. Wasn't her intention to observe him and find out more about his secrets? However, he He didn't care. These black-bearded armed men in front of him were like little kids with rubber bands and slingshot. "Stop!" the red-nose shouted. "Who are you people? What are you doing here?" Charlotte did not speak. He continued to walk toward the stone building. "Damn it!" One of the armed men suddenly raised his gun. "I will kill you!" At this time, the red-nose suddenly remembered something. He hurriedly pulled out a crumpled sketch from his pocket. He glanced at it and his expression changed. "It's him. The guy who blew up our refinery. Kill him!" The four armed men suddenly pulled out their swords and slashed across their own neck. "You!" The red-nose's tone and expression changed from one extreme to another. A second ago, he gave off a ferocious feeling that his teeth could bite through steel. A second later, he was like a critically ill patient. He did not even have the strength to speak or stand. His eyes were filled with the fear of death. Charlotte walked past him and entered the stone building. From beginning to end, he did not say a word to the red-nose. The red-nose looked at Charlotte's back. He wanted to shoot because this was the best chance to kill Charlotte. He was horrified to find that he could not control his hands at all. His hands and feet seemed to be tied up by invisible rope. He could not move. This scene entered Langier's eyes. Her blue and black eyes were also filled with horror. She wanted to pry into Charlotte's secrets. She had gotten what she wanted, but the result shocked her. Her eyes stopped on Charlotte's back. At that moment, her heart was filled with awe. "Why are you still standing there?" Charlotte stopped. "I saved one for you." "You?" Langier smiled bitterly. She walked over and stabbed her knife into Red-Nose's heart. Red-Nose watched helplessly as Langier pulled out the knife. Langier stabbed him. He also watched helplessly as his heart began to bleed, but he could not move at all. The Red-Nose fell to the ground. Langier stepped on the Red-Nose's body and walked into the stone building. "You know, for a moment I suspected that you were a Blue Moon person." Charlotte turned around and looked at her. "Why would you suspect that?" Langier said, "Blue Moon people can do what you did, but that's only for high-ranking Blue Moon people. Normal Blue Moon people do not have your ability. What else do you know about Blue Moon people? Tell me everything. Now is not the time to chat. I'll tell you on the way to the Forest of Rest," Langier said. Charlotte did not ask further. He could not rush this Ahemus woman. He had to take it slow. Where would Song-ji hide his belongings? Langier asked. Charlotte smiled. "Now is not the time to chat. I'll tell you on the way to the Forest of Rest." "You!" Langier wanted to scold him, but she swallowed her words. She just glared at Charlotte. How ungentlemanly. On the third floor, Charlotte looked up at the collapsed ceiling of the second floor, which was actually the floor of the third floor. He had already used X-ray vision to see that there was a hidden space between the walls in the room where the short man and the tall man ate children and played with women. That secret space was where Song-ji hid his belongings. Before killing Song-ji, Charlotte had actually stolen a lot of information from Song-ji's brain, including the secret space where he hid his belongings. However, he did not have the opportunity or interest to go in and get some loot for himself. Now, he had to buy some property for the nannies in Mu village. If he did not use Song-ji's money, whose money would he use? There were no banks or stock markets in this world. A businessman like Song-ji could only hide his blood-stained money in his own place. Therefore, even if he did not steal the relevant information from Song-ji's brain, he would still come here to take a look. There were no banks or stock markets in this world. Businessmen hid their belongings in their own homes, which became Charlotte's way of making money. On Earth, he made firearms and made money in the American stock market. In this new world, he made money by killing evil businessmen like Song-ji. Therefore, although the world was different, he still made money very quickly. "I'll go up and take a look first. Then I'll pull you up." Langi suddenly rushed to a wall. She was very fast, and she went over in a swoosh. When she approached the stone wall, her right foot kicked the ground heavily, and then her body jumped high. She actually reached the height of the second floor. Lan Ji-er's jumping ability surprised Xia Lei. He thought to himself, the gravity in this world is stronger than on Earth. My jumping ability is greatly affected, but she doesn't seem to be affected. What's going on? Charlotte could not reach the same height, but Lan Ji could. But she was obviously not as strong as him. This was very strange. Just as Charlotte was making guesses in his mind, Lan Ji's body suddenly stuck to the stone wall and did not move at all. Charlotte was stunned again because Lan Ji had suddenly jumped up. Her body must have carried a lot of impact. She slammed into the stone wall, so her body should have bounced back, but she did not. Moreover, the stone wall was very smooth. The surface of the stone had been carefully polished, and even the gaps between the stones had been specially treated. They were almost as thin as paper. She could not grab the gaps between the stones at all, but she was stuck to the stone wall, like a human-shaped gecko with perky buttocks and big breasts. Lan Ji-er had really turned into a gecko. Her blue and black striped palms were stuck to the smooth stone wall. Every movement was like a magnetic suction cup, making climbing the wall a piece of cake. Charlotte's gaze locked onto Lan Ji's palm. He saw that there was an additional layer of mucous membrane on her palm. The mucous membrane was stuck to the stone wall and had a strong adhesive force, and the secretion of that mucous membrane was the blue and black stripe on her body. A metal cage suddenly appeared in Charlotte's mind. Lan Ji was lying down in that metal cage, her face pressed against the ground to listen to the sounds downstairs. And between her raised zebra buttocks was a mysterious scenery of blue and black stripes. F***ck. Song Ji is really an unscrupulous businessman. What kind of man in this world can rape an Ahemus woman? Unless he doesn't want his D***ck anymore. With the adhesion of the mucous membrane secreted by her blue and black stripe, skinning and pulling tendons is not a problem at all. Once that thing. For some reason, Xia Lei suddenly felt a chill between his legs, and that thing also shrunk behind his back. Lan Ji moved up to the third floor in a few moves. She clapped her palms, and the mucous membrane disappeared. Some dust fell from her palms. She looked down at Charlotte. Tell me, where did Song Ji hide his belongings? Charlotte spread his hands. Don't tell me you want to keep it all to yourself? How ungentlemanly. Lan Ji turned around and left. A few minutes later, a rope made of bedsheets hung down from the staircase on the third floor. Charlotte grabbed the rope and climbed up. He could have just gone up directly. However, after discovering Lan Ji's secret, he decided to keep a low profile and did not want to reveal too much of his strength. There were still leftover babies in the room on the third floor. It was so disgusting that it made him want to vomit. Charlotte did not want to stay in this place for long. He quickly found the mechanism to open the secret space and opened the hidden stone door. Behind the stone door was a narrow and long secret space with an area of only a few square meters. It was located between the walls of two rooms. If not for his X-ray vision, he would not have found it at all. There were many things stored in the secret space. There were 2 chests full of blue moon coins, as well as some high-quality weapons and ammunition. Money and weapons seemed to be essential for people like Song Ji in this world. Huang Zhan's treasury was mostly filled with weapons and ammunition, as well as money. I'm rich. Ha! Lan Ji pounced at a chest full of money, unable to suppress the excitement in her heart. She stuffed money into the pockets of her clothes and pants. When she was full, she pulled open the collar of her underwear and continued stuffing money into it. Charlotte was curious. You live in the forest of rest. Why do you love money so much? What do you need money for? Lan Ji stuffed money into her underwear as she said, Do you think the Ahemus living in the forest of rest should live like primitive people? We have a business agreement with the Blue Moon people. We use money to buy their weapons and other resources. Our civilization needs the Blue Moon people's weapons and resources for production. The Ahimus were indeed not on the Blue Moon people's menu. You caught Songji because you want to earn money, right? Charlotte said. That's none of your business. Do you want this money? If you don't want it, I'll take it all. Lan Ji seemed to have become a different woman in front of the two chests of Blue Moon coins, greedy and selfish. Charlotte said, Keep it. When you can't keep it anymore, it will all be mine. That's what you said. Lan Ji suddenly stood up and tucked her pants into her boot. Then, she pulled open the waist of her pants and stuffed the money inside. Charlotte looked at her in shock, not knowing what to say. He saw the white underwear that Lan Ji pulled open, and he could vaguely see the bulge of the blue and black stripe. However, after discovering the secret of the Ahimus woman, not only did he not have an impulsive reaction, he even shrunk back a little. There was nothing in this world that was invincible. Everything in the world had its nemesis. Xiao Xia had run amok for many years, and now she had finally met her nemesis. Chapter 1381. Song Ji had stored quite a lot of things in the secret room. There were about 1,000,000 Blue Moon dollars. Including the weapons, ammunition, and other collectibles, the total value was about 2,000,000 Blue Moon dollars. Lan Ji had placed a box full of Blue Moon dollars on her body. Her pockets, pants pockets, underwear pockets, and pants pockets were all filled with Blue Moon dollars. Charlotte wasn't worried that her money would drop because her blue and black skin would secrete mucous membranes to stick the money. Lan Ji could actually still carry some money, but after taking a whole box of money, she stopped and left another box for Charlotte. After all, Charlotte was the one who found the money, and Song Ji was killed by Charlotte. It was already good enough for her to take half of the money. Charlotte didn't only get the box of money and weapons, but he also got a very special item. It was a white object. It was oval in shape and looked like a relatively large olive pit. Its surface was very smooth, and it could clearly reflect a person's figure. It wasn't made of metal or plastic. It looked like a synthetic material. It was a little soft, but when Charlotte wanted to pinch it open, he couldn't break its structure. It was obvious how stable it was. Xiaolei held it in his hand and looked at it from left to right. Then, he looked at Lan Ji and thought to himself, this thing can't be a Blue Moon woman's sex egg, right? When Lan Ji saw the white, olive pit in Charlotte's hand, her eyes immediately lit up. She suddenly reached out to snatch it from Charlotte's hand. How could Charlotte let her succeed? He pulled his hand back and easily avoided Lan Ji's hand. Can you give it to me? Lan Ji said. Why do you want it so much? What is it? Charlotte probed. Lan Ji looked at Charlotte with a strange expression. Don't you know what it is? I don't know. What is it? Charlotte had an intuition in his heart that this unintentional little thing was not an ordinary thing. It had great value or a very important meaning. Lan Ji said, since you don't even know what it is, you might as well give it to me. It's just a small toy. I keep it for myself. Charlotte smiled. I won't fall for your trick. This thing must be very valuable and important. It doesn't matter if you don't tell me. I'll just take it back and ask Liang Tao. There must be someone in the resistance army who knows what it is. However, in the future, we won't cooperate like this anymore, because you even lie to your allies. Stingy. Lan Ji smirked. It's called Tata. It's a communication device that the Blue Moon people give to trustworthy people. It's also a pass to enter the Blue Moon. With it, we can enter the Blue Moon and do business with the Blue Moon people. Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. You're saying that as long as I have this Tata, I can enter the Blue Moon in the sky? Lan Ji nodded. Yes, but you have to have a spacecraft to go up. Where can I get a spacecraft? Charlotte was already tempted. Lan Ji said, that's very difficult. It's almost impossible for you to get a spacecraft that can go up to the Blue Moon. Your own spacecraft can't fly up at all. However, as far as I know, Every year, the Black Market Alliance will prepare a large number of top-grade goods for the nobles of the Blue Moon people. They will then apply for a spacecraft and send a representative to the Blue Moon to trade with the Blue Moon people. I don't know who this Tata in your hand belongs to, but you have to figure it out first. Also, it seems to have run out of energy. You have to find a way to replenish it. Charlotte nodded and thought to himself, it seems that this Tata isn't Song Ji's but someone else's. Song Ji hasn't been to the Blue Moon before. If he had, it would be impossible for his brain to not have relevant memories of such an important experience. No matter what, I must get the energy of the Blue Moon people and activate this Tata. Going to the Blue Moon was a very strong wish of Charlotte's after coming to this new world. He had to go up there, turn the world upside down, and destroy the Blue Moon. Although there was no alternation between day and night, it was still daytime when the time came. In order to increase the feeling of daybreak, the underground city had specially installed a huge spherical lamp on the rock wall above the city. It would be lit up at 6:30 a.m. every day. Everyone in the city could see it and know that it was daybreak outside. The underground city had been built for 100 years, but the desire of the people living in the underground city to return to the surface had never been extinguished. In a room in the White House, the girls from Mu family village woke up one after another. They saw a big box of money in the room and a large pile of weapons and ammunition. However, the person they wanted to see the most was not in the room. Look, there's a lot of money and weapons. Mu Xiaoxiao, the youngest of the group, broke the silence in the room. Mu Zhaodi, the oldest of the group, said, "That must be the weapons and ammunition Master bought for us. He is a man of his word. By the way, why did we fall asleep? Didn't Master say he wanted to drink our milk?" Mu Kaiyun, who was the most beautiful, said. She was not interested in the weapons and ammunition. Master must be lying to us. We haven't even given birth to a child. How can we have milk? Mu said. Aya, my chest is so swollen. Mu Xiang lifted her clothes, revealing her snow-white chest. Perhaps it was really swollen and uncomfortable, so she squeezed it with her hand. It did not matter if she squeezed it, but when she squeezed, a white liquid flowed out. Ah! Mu Xiaoxi's voice was full of surprise. Mu Xiang, is that milk? That's milk. I can smell that smell. Mu Xiaohong said excitedly. She was beside Mu Xiang. Oh my God, you haven't even given birth to a child. How can you have milk? Mine also has milk. No way, let me see my. I have it too. We all have milk. The room was snow-white, and the scenery was like an undulating snowy mountain. It could dazzle people's eyes. The girls were talking about their milk, and the scene was very noisy and lively. In an instant, Mu Tsayun's words suddenly made the noisy scene quiet down. Is our master a god? I heard my grandmother say that 1,000 years ago, Holy Thunder could make a woman pregnant with just one look. Holy Thunder is a god, but our master only needs to look at us and we can produce milk. Is he a god like Holy Thunder? Can make a woman pregnant with a glance? How could he be so godly? I've never heard of such a legend. Mu Xiaoxi said, the reason why we say that Holy Thunder is a god is because we respect him, but he is not a god. He died in battle, but a god will not die. Even a god will die, right? If he is not a god, then how do you explain our milk? Mu Kaihong said. This. Mu Xiaoxi did not know how to explain the strange incident of her milk producing milk. Well, stop discussing. Master wants to drink milk, so let's milk him. He is so good to us, so we have to be good to him. Mu Xiaohong climbed down from the bed. She quickly found a porcelain bowl and milked the milk in it. The girls of Mu family village gathered in front of the stone table and lined up to milk the porcelain bowl. The crowd squeezed a lot, and the porcelain bowl that could only hold 300 milliliters was quickly filled with milk. The milky white liquid exuded a rich fragrance, and it made the air in the room smell good. At the same time, Charlotte, who had just walked into the corridor, suddenly stopped. His nose sniffed hard, and then his milkworm crawled out of his throat. He couldn't wait to go to the door of the room. He didn't even bother to knock on the door. He pushed the door open and walked in. At that moment, the beautiful scenery of a rolling snowy mountain suddenly entered his sight. The corner of his eyes seemed to be illuminated by more than a dozen searchlights, and he was instantly dazzled. Ah! Mu Xiaoxiao cried out in surprise and hurriedly covered her small chest with her hand. She was the youngest and the shyest. Charlotte hurriedly turned around. I didn't see anything. This was the best example of lying through one's teeth. The girls hurriedly pulled down their clothes. Their faces were all red, and they were very embarrassed. Although they had already regarded Charlotte as their master and were willing to give their everything to him, they were still ignorant girls who had not experienced the world, and simply could not let it go. Are you guys done? Charlotte said. We're done. Mu Caihong's voice was small, but there was a bit of timidity in it. Master, we gave you a bowl of milk. Drink it while it's hot. This should be the most touching words that Charlotte had heard since he came to the new world. He turned around and looked at the big bowl of milk that Mu Caihong carefully held in her hand. His heart was moved. What lovely girls they are, and what great sacrifices they have made. Thank you. Charlotte bowed deeply to the girls. The girls were stunned for a moment, then hurriedly bowed to Charlotte. Charlotte hurriedly went up to support Mu Caihong and took the porcelain bowl from her hands. All right, don't bow to me, I'll drink this bowl of milk first. The 8 girls looked at Charlotte with curious eyes. In their eyes, this good-looking man first took 2 deep breaths of the milk, then stretched out his tongue and carefully licked the milk stains on the edge of the bowl into his mouth. Even if it was just a little bit of milk stain on the edge of the bowl, he looked intoxicated when he ate it, like a drunkard who had finally gotten a good drink. After going through the motions, Charlotte then moved his mouth over, raised his neck, and gulped down the milk. These girls' milk was of the highest quality, and he knew how precious this kind of milk was, so he didn't want to waste even a drop. He could also feel the activity and excitement of the imprint in his body. It was like a desert after a long drought, and every inch of soil was singing. The 8 girls looked at Charlotte, and in their hearts, they actually had a guess that they didn't dare to say. Is Master a pervert? After drinking a bowl of milk, Charlotte felt comfortable from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet, and every cell in his body was filled with magical energy. He also felt the primordial imprint in the depths of his soul again, and its sudden appearance seemed to indicate something. But before he could feel its existence too much, a voice interrupted his thoughts. Master, do you want more? It was Mu Caihong's voice. Charlotte hesitated for a moment, then handed the bowl to Mu Caihong, then another bowl. The girls, she was just being polite, did he really think she was a milk cow? Who would want another bowl after squeezing one bowl? Chapter 1382. Everything was easy with money, so Charlotte bought a stone building behind the White House. The stone building was 3 stories high, and there was a backyard behind it. There was also a stone house which was very spacious. This place was the territory of the resistance army. The 8 little nannies would be very safe if they were to live here. This was Xia Lei's first home in the New World. The name he gave his home was still Peace Residence. He missed his home, his women and children, and the thought of going home never stopped. The second day after moving into Peace Residence, Ramona went to Charlotte's house and asked him to go to the White House. At that time, he had just finished drinking a big bowl of top-grade milk that the 8 little nannies had squeezed for him. He burped and left with Ramona. Did Liang Tao want to see me or? Charlotte asked on the way to the White House. Ramona said, It's the Commander-in-Chief, Canton Nana. She's here. Then, she asked Charlotte a question. Was that milk you just drank? Charlotte was slightly stunned, then smiled and said, Yes, it was milk. I asked them to buy milk from the black market. That stuff is really expensive. Ramona rolled her eyes at Charlotte. She obviously knew something, but she did not say it. The 8 girls' breasts had suddenly become bigger, and there was a milky smell on their bodies. They were all women, how could she not see it? I suspected that he was a pervert when I was in Peace Village. I didn't expect him to be a pervert. I must tell the village chief about this and let her know what kind of a pervert the man she loves is. Ramona thought to herself. Charlotte had already caught her thoughts, but what else could Charlotte say other than a bitter smile? If he was a pervert, then so be it. There was no shortage of perverts in this world. When they arrived at the White House, Charlotte followed Ramona to another office, which was the largest Oval Office in the White House that he had never entered before. When they walked into the Oval Office, Charlotte really felt like he had walked into the Oval Office of the White House, because there was also a large wooden table and a leather sofa in the Oval Office. This was probably the most luxurious office in the Resistance Army branch. Charlotte finally met the Commander-in-Chief of the Resistance, Contanana. She stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window behind her desk with her back to Charlotte. She was about 1.8 meters tall and wore a brown rock-patterned military uniform. Her waist was slender, and her buttocks were plump. Her legs occupied 2/3 of her body, and her curves were excellent. She was the kind of legs that could be used for years. Although he could only see her back, Charlotte felt that it was very pleasing to the eye. "Commander-in-Chief, Mr. Summer is here," Ramona said. Only then did Contanana turn around. In fact, she already knew who it was when she heard the footsteps, because she had already seen Charlotte standing behind Ramona through the projection on the floor-to-ceiling window. At that time, she could not help but look at Charlotte through the floor-to-ceiling window. It was not easy to see a man as good-looking as Charlotte, and Charlotte had a very special temperament that was very attractive. When Contanana turned around, Charlotte was suddenly stunned. This was because the face of the woman standing in front of him looked very much like the face of another woman, and that woman was one of his most beloved wives, Long Bing. Long Bing's face did not have the charm of a woman, but it had the heroic feeling of a man among women. The lines of her face were a combination of Chinese and Western characteristics. She had the softness of an Eastern woman and the sharpness of a Western woman, so it was very special. And this Contanana's face was the same type of face as Long Bing's, and the similarity was at least 80%. With such a similar face, if she put on some makeup, she would really become Long Bing. The figure was similar, the face was extremely similar, and the heroic temperament of a man among women. At that moment, Charlotte's mind became a little dazed. He felt as if he had returned home, and his beloved wife, Long Bing, was looking at him affectionately. At that moment, he blurted out a name, "Bing, huh?" Contanana was stunned for a moment. "Mr. Summer, are you calling me?" Contanana's voice immediately brought Charlotte back from his daze. He hurriedly said, No, sorry, I lost my composure. You look like one of my..." At this point, he closed his mouth again. Ramona was right beside him, and he had said that he had forgotten everything when he was in Peace Village. Ramona had already joined the Resistance Army, and before he came to see Contanana, she must have told Contanana about his situation in Peace Village. If he said that Contanana looked like one of his wives at this time, wouldn't he be shooting himself in the foot? Look like one of your what, friend? Or? Contanana was very curious about Charlotte's reaction and asked. Charlotte shrugged, then added a sigh. I forgot everything, but the moment I saw you, I had a very familiar feeling. I felt that you looked like someone I knew, but I forgot that person. It was a very strange feeling. I felt as if we had known each other for many years, and when I saw you, I felt especially close. Ramona coughed. Mr. Xia, do you always say that when you see a girl? Charlotte smiled awkwardly. I'm telling the truth, I don't mean anything else. Ramona, you can leave. I'll talk to Mr. Xia, Contanana said. Yes. Ramona turned around and left. When she passed by Charlotte, she whispered, "Mr. Xia, restrain yourself. She's our commander-in-chief. I know you're a pervert. Don't make me tell this secret to the commander-in-chief." Charlotte, Ramona left and closed the door after she went out. The Oval Office quieted down, and the atmosphere was slightly silent. Charlotte looked at Contanana, but in his heart, he was thinking about his beloved wife, Long Bing. His eyes were full of gentleness and love, and they were almost decorated with little stars. Contanana was a little overwhelmed by Charlotte's gaze. She coughed and said awkwardly, "Mr. Xia, this is the first time we've met. Don't you think that looking at me like this is a little, that?" What she wanted to say was probably too much or impolite. Although she did not say it clearly, her meaning was very clear. Charlotte finally looked away from her face and looked at the dim scenery outside the floor-to-ceiling window. "If I've caused you any misunderstanding, I apologize. Well, let's get down to business. I know you flew from afar to see me. There must be something, right? Tell me." Contanana's expression became much more natural when they got down to business. "Here's the thing. I've heard about you for a long time, and I know a lot about you. You led the villagers of Peace Village to fight against the Hardstone tribe. You even used a bow and arrow to kill 8 humanoid mechs belonging to Lascivious Cat. Those 8 mechs have been transported to another base. Also, the machine tool you assembled with old parts in Peace Village is very useful. Our technicians are full of praise for it. Tell me, if I don't come to see a talent like you, wouldn't it be my dereliction of duty?" Charlotte knew what she meant, but he pretended to be confused. "Commander Cantu, is that it? Mr. Xia, you're a very smart person. Do you think I flew so far and risked being discovered by the Blue Moon people's aircraft just to chat with you? If it's not chat, what else?" Charlotte continued to pretend to be confused. Contanana's lips curled up slightly. "Mr. Xia, I'll be straightforward. I want to invite you to join the Resistance Army. As long as you join, you'll be the deputy commander of the Resistance Army. In the future, when you're familiar with the Resistance Army, I'll resign from my position as Commander-in-Chief, and you'll be in charge of the Resistance Army." He would be the deputy commander as soon as he joined, and after a period of time, he would be promoted to a permanent position. This was something that others could only dream of, but Charlotte made his own decision. "Commander Cantu, thank you for your kind intentions. Thank you for thinking so highly of me. I'm used to being free, and I have my own destiny. I have to face some things. I'll also be straightforward. I won't join the Resistance Army, but I can be friends with the Resistance Army. As long as you have any needs, as long as I can do it, I'll definitely help you. Please reconsider your decision. We need you very much. It could even be said that the entire human race needs you," Contanana said. Her tone was sincere, and so was her gaze. "I've already thought it through very clearly. I'm sorry, but I really can't join the Resistance Army," Charlotte said. "Mr. Xia, if you have any conditions, please tell us. We'll do our best to fulfill them," Contanana said. Charlotte smiled bitterly. "I don't have any conditions, and I've already made it very clear." At this moment, there was a knock on the door, followed by Liang Tao's voice. "It's me, Liang Tao. Is it convenient for you to come in?" "What's inconvenient about it? Come in." Contanana's voice was not polite at all. The door opened and Liang Tao walked in. There were bloodstains on his body, and his face was stained with blood and mud. It looked like he had just come down from the line of fire. Contanana was stunned. "Aren't you in the northern part of the desolate border city? What happened?" Liang Tao walked to the desk and grabbed a cup on the table. He drank all the water in the cup in one gulp before saying, "The defense line we built in the north was attacked by the Blue Moon people, and some of our brothers died. I ordered our people to retreat underground, but the Blue Moon people did not retreat." Contanana thought for a moment. "There's a natural cave under the northern defense line. It's very suitable for building a new city. This is our resistance army's secret. Why would the Blue Moon people suddenly attack our northern defense line? Someone must have leaked the secret, Liang Tao said. Damn it. Nana slammed her fist on the desk. Those who betray humanity deserve to die. In order to obtain some benefits from the Blue Moon people, they even betrayed their own race. Don't they think about it? If one day we were all eaten by the Blue Moon people, would the Blue Moon people still keep them alive? Charlotte was silent for a moment before saying, Tell me, who knows the secret of the northern defense line? I can help you find out who betrayed you, and I can also help you get rid of the traitors. You? Nana said unhappily, This is an internal matter of the resistance army. You are not a member of the resistance army, so we don't need your help. Don't you have something to do? You can leave now. She tried her best to persuade Charlotte to join them. She even said, If you have any conditions, just tell us. We will try our best to fulfill them. With her status, this was the best she could do, but Charlotte had rejected her time and time again. She was obviously unhappy. All right then, goodbye. Charlotte turned and left. Liang Tao grabbed Charlotte's hand. My good brother, how can you leave just like that? I rushed back from the front line to ask for your help. Chapter 1383. When Liang Tao grabbed Charlotte's hand, Nana's lips moved as if she wanted to tell Liang Tao not to keep Charlotte, but she swallowed the words. Charlotte's stubbornness made her very uncomfortable, but the resistance army really needed someone like Charlotte. Liang Tao seemed to know what Nana was thinking. He did not say anything but winked at Nana. Nana smiled bitterly. She did not believe that Liang Tao could persuade Charlotte to join the resistance army. Nana and Liang Tao's eyes and reactions were all within Charlotte's observation. He actually understood Nana's desire for him to join the resistance army, but he could not join the resistance army. He had his own destiny, and he had his own struggle. It was also out of the need to understand the situation. After Liang Tao came in, Xia Lei released the energy of his branding power. His branding power energy field covered the entire Oval Office. His branding power energy was like a data cable, allowing him to download all kinds of information from Nana and Liang Tao's brains. The information surged into his brain like a tide, and his brain processed it quickly, giving him a very comprehensive result. On this planet of hope, the human population was less than 10 million. This was the number that could be calculated, and there were some that could not be calculated, such as the population of the small villages and tribes in the wilderness. But even if the uncountable population was included, the human population on this planet was no more than 10 million, or a little more than 10 million. Most of the survivors were hidden in the hundreds of underground cities of various sizes. The underground city in the wilderness was only one of the many underground cities, with a population of less than 20,000. The largest underground city, the underground city of the Holy Land, had a population of more than 200,000. It was in the first district, far away. It was also the last remaining major city of mankind, and its construction began 500 years ago. From the information downloaded from Nana's brain, Charlotte had a more comprehensive understanding of the resistance army. The resistance army was a military organization that fought against the Blue Moon people, but it was not a whole. It was a chaotic situation of warlords. After the previous commander-in-chief of the resistance army, Wu Xing, was assassinated, Nana took over the position of commander-in-chief of the resistance army. Although she had the title of Commander-in-Chief of the Resistance Army, she could only control this one resistance army. The other resistance army did not listen to her command at all. Without a unified command, the rebellion army of all sizes controlled their own territories, and the intensity of protecting their own interests was far greater than the Blue Moon Resistance Army. The group led by Contunana was not the strongest in the resistance army. On the contrary, the group she led was only below average in terms of strength, with less than 10,000 people. On Earth, such a small number of people would only be enough to form a division, not even an army. To make matters worse, due to the lack of money, weapons, and equipment, the resistance army that she led was not attractive. Over the past 3 years, the number of people had been decreasing, and the territory had been shrinking. The future was bleak. Contunana's greatest wish was to unify the resistance army and form a powerful military force. However, she had to face the scattered hearts of the people, as well as the large and small warlords who fought for their own interests under the banner of the resistance army. She was powerless, which was why she had said what she had just said. She had asked him to be her assistant and then take over her position as the new commander-in-chief of the resistance army. This was the current situation of the resistance army. It was very cruel and helpless, but it represented the last hope of humanity. This situation reminded Charlotte of a period of history. During World War II, Japan invaded China. At that time, the national government's army was called a million-strong army. Most of their weapons and equipment were made by the United States, and they were no worse than Japan's. However, because of the warlords' division, the warlords were all seeking their own interests, which was why they were repeatedly defeated by the Japanese army and lost half of the country. Now, weren't the humans of the New World rewriting that period of history? Facing the Blue Moon people, not only were humans not united, but they had fallen into internal strife. Unscrupulous merchants, inhumane bandits, and the resistance army that had their own camp. With such a situation, what did humans have to fight the Blue Moon people? The information, downloaded from Liang Tao's brain was basically the same as the information, downloaded from Contunana's brain. From the information, downloaded from Liang Tao's brain, Charlotte had a little understanding of the battle that had taken place in the northern defense line. His brain simulated a real battlefield based on the information downloaded from Liang Tao's brain. It was a corner of the deserted city. The Blue Moon people's spaceplane had bombed the buildings. The sound of explosions was endless, and the already dilapidated buildings collapsed one after another. On the ground, the soldiers of the resistance army fled in panic. Some people were caught by the Blue Moon people's ground combatants and eaten directly with a feeding device. Some people died on the spot. The defense line guarded by the resistance army soldiers quickly collapsed, and the Blue Moon people's army gathered on a street from different directions. There was a sewer under that street, and under the sewer was a natural catacomb that was prepared to be used to build a city. The Blue Moon people obviously would not allow another underground city to appear in this place. They wanted to destroy it. In fact, according to the information downloaded from Liang Tao's brain, the Blue Moon people had only sent out a total of 1 spaceplane and about 10 ground combatants. According to the human organization, this was just the establishment of a special forces commando team. However, it was this small number of people that had beaten the resistance army to the point that they could not even fight back. The battlefield video, simulated by his brain, had not finished, but Charlotte had already stopped it. He had obtained so much information and had so many emotions, but for Liang Tao and Contunana, he was only silent for a few dozen seconds. Liang Tao and Contunana had no idea what Charlotte had learned from them. "Do you want me to help you fight?" "No problem." Charlotte put away his thoughts and looked relaxed. "You agree to help?" Liang Tao did not expect that before he even asked for Charlotte's help, Charlotte would agree to participate in the battle. This surprised him. Charlotte said calmly, "Then let go of me. How am I going to go home and get my weapons and equipment if you hold me?" Liang Tao then let go. "I'll wait for you outside." Charlotte left the Oval Office. Liang Tao smiled bitterly. "This guy is really hard to see through, but he is a good person. You should let him stay." Contunana said, I tried, but it didn't work at all. Liang Tao said, then try harder. If he leaves, it will be difficult to get him to join us. You have a good relationship with him. You are responsible for this matter, Kong Tu Nana said. Liang Tao looked like he had a headache. If I could do it, I wouldn't have asked you to come. That guy's only weakness is women. When he sees beautiful women, his heart will soften. Haven't you tried to attract him? Kong Tu Nana glared at Liang Tao. Shut up. I'm not that kind of woman. Also, I heard that you told Hayakawa Shinsuke that he is my fiancé. Is that true? Wasn't that just an expedient measure? The situation at that time. Alright, that's enough. Just this once. If I hear you say that again, I'll teach you a lesson. Kong Tu Nana glared at him like a tigress ready to fight. Liang Tao shrugged. Well, I won't say it anymore. But I really think you and him are a good match. You're still talking. Kong Tu Nana's voice echoed in the Oval Office, causing the glass to rustle. I'm leaving. Liang Tao ran out of the Oval Office as if he was escaping. Kong Tu Nana hesitated for a moment before she also went out. She caught up with Liang Tao. I'm going to see it too. You? No, it's too dangerous. Liang Tao swept away his usual cheeky smile and said seriously, You are our supreme commander. If you die, the resistance army will also fall into chaos. At that time, we will really have no hope. Kong Tu Nana said, No, I'm going to see it. You guys have praised him so much. I want to see if he is as powerful as you say. If he is, then he's worth my effort to recruit. If he isn't, then he's not worth it. He can go wherever he wants. It has nothing to do with us. The enemy is the Blue Moon Special Forces. They have a dauntless heavy combat mech and a predator. Are you counting on him to help us win this battle? Liang Tao said. I don't have such high expectations. I just want to see how he performs on the battlefield, Kong Tu Nana said. Let's go. Don't try to persuade me anymore. Fine. Liang Tao sighed, however. Sometimes I feel that the two of you are a perfect match. Both of you are so good-looking and so stubborn. Kong Tu Nana kicked at him. Liang Tao let out a blood-curdling screech and quickened his pace. Inside the Peace Residence, Charlotte put on the light armor he had taken from the Black Market Alliance leader and held the metal bow in his hand. This time, he did not choose a normal gun. Instead, he chose the energy pistol of the Blue Moon people. After all, his enemies were the Blue Moon people. Normal guns were useless against them. This was his first time fighting with the Blue Moon people. He could not help but feel excited. His adrenaline surged. Master, you must be careful on the battlefield. You must take care of yourself, okay? Mu Kaiyun helped Charlotte tidy up his light armor. Charlotte nodded. Don't worry. I'll be fine. Mu Xiaohong held a bowl of milk in her hands and walked in front of Charlotte. Master, drink this. It will give you more strength and courage. Was this milk to strengthen him? Charlotte felt a little ridiculous, but he still took the bowl of milk and drank it in one gulp. A warm feeling rose in his stomach. He had indeed gained more strength, more courage, and was very touched. Don't squeeze so hard. You'll break it, Charlotte said. Mu Xiaoxi said with a red face, Master, we have enough milk. If we don't squeeze it out, it will be very uncomfortable. Master, you don't have to worry about this. If you don't believe me, look. I squeezed so much just now. I have more now. Mu Xiang, who was the oldest, suddenly lifted up her shirt and grabbed a snow-white breast. She was about to squeeze it out for Charlotte to see. Charlotte really looked. She really had more. She squeezed and it flowed out. It even felt like it was spurting out. There was a lot of it. That scene made him start to doubt his life. Master, how about another bowl? Mu Kaiyun said. Squeeze a bowl. I'll drink it when I come back. Charlotte stuffed the bowl into Mu Kaiyun's hands and walked out. In the past, Yuan killed Hua Xiong with wine. Today, Charlotte killed the Blue Moon people with milk. Chapter 1384. Surrounded by a group of heavily armed rebel soldiers, Charlotte followed Liang Tao and Kantu Nana to the light rail station. The underground city's light rail was connected to the desolate city's subway system to reach different parts of the city. It was also the lifeline of the underground city. Many resources were transported through the light rail. Fortunately, the light rail was controlled by the rebel army. "Do you suspect who it is?" Charlotte asked when they arrived at the light rail station. Liang Tao shook his head. "I don't know, but I'm investigating. If I find out who it is, I'll kill him." "Is it only the rebel army that knows the secret of the northern defense line?" Charlotte asked. Liang Tao said, "Of course not. It's a huge project to develop a new underground city. It requires a lot of manpower and resources. You know our situation. We don't have that kind of power. The people from the Black Market Alliance have interfered and are working with us. So, the only person who knows the secret of the Northern Defense Line is Hayakawa Shinsuke from the Black Market Alliance." Charlotte's heart skipped a beat. "You were attacked by the Blue Moon people. Did the Black Market Alliance not send reinforcements? That's a project you're working with." "No." Liang Tao snorted. "Those guys have better equipment than us and they even have mech. But they're not willing to fight. They're only willing to pay a little money. We'll investigate the leak when we get back." "Now is not the time," Kantu Nana said. A light rail car drove into the platform. There were already some rebel soldiers transferred from elsewhere on the car. Just as Charlotte was about to board, a large group of armed men suddenly arrived at the light rail station. They were not from the rebel army, but from the Black Market Alliance. The leader was the master of the underground city, Hayakawa Shinsuke. As they were talking about Hayakawa Shinsuke arrived. Was this a coincidence? Xiaolei didn't know why, but he smelled something unusual. Without any hesitation, he silently extended his branding power energy field and enveloped Hayakawa Shinsuke and the armed men who followed him. His branding power field was like a cage, but Hayakawa Shinsuke and his men could not see it. Everyone's brainwaves were captured by the branding power, and the branding power also downloaded information from every brain within its range. The first brain that Charlotte downloaded was Hayakawa Shinsuke's brain. His brain processed the information quickly, and a memory quickly played in his mind. On the rooftop of a dilapidated building in a deserted city, Hayakawa Shinsuke was lying on a beach chair, enjoying the service of two bikini-clad women while communicating with a Tada. "Dear Lon Sidi, I have good news." "Yes, of Hayakawa Shinsuke. Hayakawa Nana, the commander, will come to the city." Hayakawa of Hayakawa Shinsuke. One of the bikini-clad beauties had her head buried in his chest, and the other between his legs. They seemed to be working hard. Hayakawa Shinsuke had a look of enjoyment on his face. "Ms. Lon Sidi, I have another piece of information for you. A huge catacomb has been discovered in the northern part of the city. The resistance is planning to turn it into a new city. There are abundant oil and mineral resources there. Once the resistance succeeds, Hayakawa Shinsuke's branch of the resistance will become stronger. Once she has a strong military force, the first thing she will do is to unify the resistance. I don't think you want to see that happen, right?" The two bikini-clad women wriggled like snakes. "Okay, I know what to do. I want to kill Hayakawa Shinsuke's fiancé. He is my target. Kill Hayakawa Shinsuke and the resistance in this city, and let me have complete control of the underground city. When that time comes, I will have an endless supply of goods for you. Ha ha ha, happy working with you." Hayakawa Shinsuke ended the communication. He could not wait to get up from the beach chair. He then pushed one of the bikini-clad women onto the beach chair. Charlotte cut off the memory at this point. What happened after that was too dirty, and he had no interest in letting it continue. It was enough for him to know that Hayakawa Shinsuke was the one who betrayed the resistance. This was actually the same as what he had guessed earlier. Hayakawa Shinsuke walked over with a smile on his face. Before he arrived, his voice had already reached them. Haha. Commander Hayakawa, long time no see. You are getting more and more beautiful. Kanto Nana furrowed her brows as a look of disgust flashed across her eyes. However, she still maintained a smile on her face. Mr. Hayakawa, are you planning to help us fight by bringing so many people with you? Hayakawa Shinsuke said, Yes, I have thought it through. We cannot let you face the Blue Moon people alone. We are allies, and the new city is also our common property. We have the responsibility to protect it. Hayakawa Shinsuke said happily, That's great. Let's fight together and chase the Blue Moon people away. Liang Tao said, By the way, where are your combat mechas? Hayakawa Shinsuke smiled and said, I knew that Chief Liang would mention this. Don't worry, I have already sent our combat mechas to the surface through the military tunnel. They will support us. This time, we must teach the Blue Moon people a lesson. Charlotte's lips curled into a cold smile. This guy was a typical person who hid a dagger behind his smile. If he had not stolen the information from Hayakawa Shinsuke's brain, even if he could guess that Hayakawa Shinsuke was the one who betrayed the resistance, he would not have known about Hayakawa Shinsuke's plan. Hayakawa Shinsuke brought his people here not to help the resistance, but to cooperate with the Blue Moon people to eliminate Hayakawa Shinsuke and the resistance in the underworld. He wanted to take control of the underworld. Hayakawa Shinsuke looked at Charlotte, and he maintained the same kind smile on his face. Commander Hayakawa, your fiancé is a handsome man. You two are a good match. Kanto Nana had an awkward expression on her face, but she didn't want to expose Liang Tao's lie. She could only bite the bullet and say, Now isn't the time to talk about me and my fiancé. Let's get in the car. Every second we stay here is another drop of blood. Alright, get in the car. Hayakawa Shinsuke waved his hand. The armed men of the Black Market Alliance boarded the car. When Hayakawa Shinsuke brought his people over, Charlotte did not count them carefully. Now, he scanned them with his eyes, and his brain gave him an accurate number. There were 113 armed men from the Black Market Alliance who followed Hayakawa Shinsuke into the car. Of course, this was not all of the armed men of the Black Market Alliance in the underworld. Some of them and the combat mechas had to go to the surface through the military tunnel. This group of armed men and combat mechas would not engage the Blue Moon people. They would work with the Blue Moon people to kill Hayakawa Shinsuke and the resistance. Charlotte followed Hayakawa Shinsuke and Liang Tao onto the train. The train slowly started to move. It was a train full of conspiracies and death. Hayakawa Shinsuke, do you trust him? On the train, Charlotte asked Hayakawa Shinsuke, who was sitting across from him. Hayakawa Shinsuke glanced at him from the corner of her eyes. She lowered her voice and said, I don't trust him, but we don't have a choice. I have to work with him. The natural catacombs under the northern defense line are rich in mineral resources and oil. They are very important resources, and we must develop them. But we don't have the ability to do that on our own. That's why we have to work with Hayakawa Shinsuke. Charlotte said, I understand your difficulties, and I also understand the Resistance's difficulties. It's understandable that you are working with the Black Market Alliance. After all, survival and development are the most important things. However, I don't think Hayakawa Shinsuke is trustworthy. He has brought so many people to the war. If he colludes with the Blue Moon people to harm you and the Resistance, you and the Resistance will be in grave danger. Hayakawa Shinsuke looked at Charlotte with a strange look. That's impossible, right? I know that the Black Market Alliance is bad, but the Blue Moon people are our common enemy. I don't believe that he will collude with them to harm me and the Resistance. Think about it, if we are destroyed by the Blue Moon people, they will have to face them alone. Can they hold their ground? Charlotte turned his gaze to Liang Tao. Brother Liang, do you believe what I said? Liang Tao nodded. I believe you, but I will listen to her. He pointed at Hayakawa Shinsuke. Charlotte smiled bitterly. Forget it, I can't convince you. I will go talk to Hayakawa Shinsuke. Hayakawa Shinsuke suddenly grabbed Charlotte's hand. Don't provoke him. We need to work with them now. A strange smile appeared on Charlotte's face. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Listen to me, let go of my hand. Let me go talk to him. Hayakawa Shinsuke let go of Charlotte's hand. Charlotte got up and walked over to Hayakawa Shinsuke. Liang Tao looked at Hayakawa Shinsuke curiously. Commander, I didn't know you were so easy to talk to. Don't tell me the two of you have become engaged? Husband and wife? Hayakawa Shinsuke closed her eyes and ignored Liang Tao. Liang Tao didn't say anything after being snubbed. He watched as Charlotte walked over to Hayakawa Shinsuke. His heart was filled with curiosity. Hayakawa Shinsuke made it very clear last time. Why did he still provoke him? What he didn't know was that Charlotte had hypnotized Hayakawa Shinsuke at that moment. Charlotte stopped next to Hayakawa Shinsuke's seat with a friendly smile on his face. Mr. Hayakawa, do you have time to talk? Hayakawa Shinsuke's armed men stared at Charlotte warily. Each of them had their hands on their weapons, ready to pull out their guns at any moment. Hayakawa Shinsuke raised his hand slightly, signaling his men not to act rashly. Yes, please sit. Charlotte sat across from Hayakawa Shinsuke and took off the helmet of the light armor. This light armor belongs to the Black Market Alliance. I want you to return it to me as soon as possible, Hayakawa Shinsuke said. Charlotte smiled. Of course. I will return it to you after the battle. What do you want to talk to me about? Hayakawa Shinsuke was curious. What is your dream? Charlotte asked. Hayakawa Shinsuke was speechless. Chapter 1385. What is your dream? Such words were usually spoken between teachers and students, parents and children, and the people who said these words were usually teachers and parents. However, Xia Lei said such words to an old man in his early 60s. This sentence was very inappropriate. But he looked so serious, and his face was filled with anticipation. It was as if he really wanted to know what Hayakawa Shinsuke's dream was. He had been buried in mud up to his neck. This sentence also caused the atmosphere of the conversation to become strange. What is your dream? Charlotte asked again. Hayakawa Shinsuke snorted. Are you joking with me? Charlotte shook his head. I'm serious. I understand that you don't want to tell me. At your age, you are too embarrassed to ask. Fine, I'll tell you for you. Hayakawa Shinsuke stared at Charlotte coldly. He wanted Charlotte to get lost, but when he met Charlotte's eyes, he was stunned. Then, he became quiet. Charlotte's voice did not change, but there was a strange magic in it. Your dream is to become someone like Holy Thunder. You want to lead the Black Market Alliance to fight against the Blue Moon people. You are brave and fearless. Your people are also brave and fearless. You are not afraid of the Blue Moon people at all. You want to gain the respect of the people of the underground city. You are not afraid of death because you are a powerful warrior. Hayakawa Shinsuke nodded. Charlotte's gaze swept across the armed men around Hayakawa Shinsuke. You are also powerful warriors. You hate the Blue Moon people. Take up your weapons and fight against the Blue Moon people. You will be honored. After a few minutes, Charlotte shut his mouth. Hayakawa Shinsuke shook his head vigorously, but he was still a little dizzy. Charlotte smiled. Fine, I know you don't like me. I'm leaving. Let's talk again if there is a chance. He left. Hayakawa Shinsuke and his men looked at Xia Lei as he left. There was a very strange feeling in their hearts, but they couldn't tell what it was. Charlotte returned to his seat with a faint smile on his face. He looked so calm and confident. He could not hypnotize everyone around Hayakawa Shinsuke, but he had hypnotized Hayakawa Shinsuke and a few of his leaders. That was enough. Liang Tao came over with a curious expression. "Brother, I think you, what?" Charlotte looked at him. Liang Tao smiled bitterly. "You should be doing political work. Come to our resistance army and be a political commissar." Charlotte, the light rail train stopped. The armed men of the Black Market Alliance and the resistance army got off the train, and the platform was filled with people. A rumbling explosion came from the ground above, shaking the ground. That voice made people nervous, but it also made them inexplicably excited. Khanta Nana stood opposite the resistance army. Her expression was solemn. "When we get up there, everyone must be careful. Try not to engage the Blue Moon people head-on. Use more explosive devices to attack them." "Yes, sir." The resistance army soldiers gave a resounding reply. Khanta Nana looked at Charlotte. "You plan to use bows and arrows to deal with the Blue Moon people?" Charlotte nodded and then whistled. Khanta Nana looked at Charlotte with a strange look. "This is a battlefield. Can you be more serious? Why are you whistling?" Charlotte did not answer. On the other side, Hayakawa Shinsuke suddenly raised his right arm and clenched his fist. He roared with extreme excitement. "Motherf ****************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** Today, we will show them what we can do. Charge. Kill. Whoever kills a Blue Moon person, I will pay nearly 1 million. Whoever runs away from battle, I will kill his whole family. Follow me, kill. The armed men of the Black Market Alliance looked at each other. Only a few leaders were excited. Motherf ****, why are you still standing there? Charge. One of the leaders roared. Bang. Bang. An impatient leader even fired a few shots at the platform's ceiling. Hayakawa Shinsuke led the way to the platform's exit. As he ran, he shouted, "Kill!" Boom. All the armed men of the Black Market Alliance followed Hayakawa Shinsuke to the exit. The scene looked like the Soviet Red Army rushing to the German position during World War II. Liang Tao's mouth was wide open. He was dumbfounded. Did they take some kind of drug? Charlotte casually said, "Maybe." Contanana said, "I knew it." At the critical moment, the Black Market Alliance would still make the right choice. "Soldiers, follow me. Let's fight." The Resistance Army soldiers followed Contanana and rushed to the exit. Charlotte mixed in with the crowd and rushed to the exit. He was the only one who knew the truth, but he would not say it. It was actually a good thing for Contanana to believe that even someone like Hayakawa Shinsuke would pick up a weapon and fight when faced with the Blue Moon people. At least she believed that there was still hope for humanity and that they would not lose the courage to fight. The light of the eternal sun shone down from above, and it was a little blinding. An energy cannonball whistled over the instant sunlight shone into his line of sight, striking a building next to the exit. Kaboom! The already dilapidated building suddenly had a few of its supporting pillars torn off. It swayed for a moment before collapsing with a loud bang. Thick dust billowed and was pushed to the defense line of the Resistance Army by the shockwave of the explosion. Thump, thump, thump. The cannons on the Resistance Army's position roared and fired a series of 30mm cannon shells. Whoosh! A shuttle-shaped combat aircraft whizzed past, and the energy machine gun under its belly fired a series of blinding energy bullets. Kaboom! Kaboom! The dense explosion shook the earth and people's hearts. The Resistance Army soldier controlling the cannon could not escape. He and his cannon were hit by an energy bullet, and both he and the cannon were blown to pieces. That was war. Spread out! Liang Tao roared. The Resistance Army soldiers quickly scattered. Charge! Kill! Hayakawa Shinsuke took the lead. He waved an energy pistol and charged at the Blue Moon people. In that instant, the bullets whistled above his head, and the energy cannons exploded around him, but he did not hesitate. His conviction did not waver. He was like a lone knight charging at an army of thousands. He knew he was going to die, but he did not turn back. The armed forces of the Black Market Alliance were completely stunned. Many of them thought that Hayakawa Shinsuke's pre-battle mobilization on the light rail platform was just a show for the resistance army to see. They thought that once they arrived, they would hide. They did not expect Hayakawa Shinsuke to take the lead and charge into the Blue Moon's front line. Was this a new script? Was the Chancellor on drugs? F***CK. Charge. A leader yelled behind the armed forces of the Black Market Alliance. Boss, we're going to die, a soldier said. He was really afraid. Bang. As soon as he said that, the leader fired a shot at his head. Blood and brain matter splattered everywhere, and the headless body collapsed to the ground. The leader blew the smoke out of the muzzle. This is what happens to those who don't want to fight. Do any of you have anything else to say? The armed forces of the Black Market Alliance swarmed toward the Blue Moon People's line of defense. If they did not charge, they would die immediately. If they charged, they might not die, and they might even earn the 1 million reward. They were all mercenaries, and they knew what to choose. The brave armed forces of the Black Market Alliance stunned the resistance army soldiers. They were even ashamed of their courage. Wait, that Hayakawa guy seems to have gone crazy, Kantu Nana mumbled to herself. Kantu Nana muttered to herself. She suddenly remembered Xia Lei's conversation with her on the light rail train. She subconsciously turned to look at Xia Lei, but he was no longer there. Charlotte was already on a deserted street. He would not fight a meaningless battle with the resistance army soldiers. The Blue Moon People's firepower was 10 times or even dozens of times that of the resistance army. Their targets were, of course, densely packed. With so many people crammed into one area, the enemy only needed to pour their ammunition to end the battle. He would fight, but he would only fight in his own way. The street was silent and empty. The shock wave of the explosion swept up the trash on the ground and sent it flying. Xia Lei's speed was very fast. He moved from one abandoned building to another, like a black specter on the battlefield. Boom, boom, boom. The deafening sound of a machine gun came from the side. Xia Lei stopped in his tracks and looked through a windowless window. A silver combat mech entered his field of vision. It was at least 5 meters tall, with 2 arms and 2 legs. It moved upright, and both its arms and shoulders were equipped with energy weapons. The energy machine gun in its hands was firing at the Resistance Army's line of defense. It was even bigger than the Resistance Army's cannons, and it weighed at least a few hundred kilograms. Boom, boom, boom. The frequency of the energy machine gun's firing was not particularly fast, but its power was shocking. This was not difficult to see from its recoil, because even a 5-meter-tall giant mech was shaking non-stop when it fired. Moreover, that mech's weight was at least over 10 tons. It gave people the feeling that a tank was firing continuously. This was the first time Charlotte saw a Blue Moon person's mecha. It looked similar to the Lascivious Cat and the Black Market Alliance's humanoid mecha. However, the former was obviously the original, while the latter was just an imitation based on the human's own characteristics and resources. The performance and power of the two were not on the same level. Charlotte's gaze moved to the chest area of the humanoid mecha. Just like the human mecha, it was also equipped with bulletproof glass. Through the cockpit, he saw a male Blue Moon person. He also had very big eyes, and his mouth and nose were very small. He gave people the feeling that he was a two-dimensional character. Charlotte took a deep breath and then placed a metal arrow on the metal bow's bowstring. The moment the metal arrow was placed on the bowstring, Charlotte's arms suddenly stretched out, and the metal bow was pulled to the fullest. An arrow flew out at that moment. Chapter 1386. Gotcha. The metal arrow hit the bulletproof glass of the cockpit, and sparks flew everywhere. The arrow bounced off the bulletproof glass, leaving a dent in it and cracks that spread like a spider web. If it had been Horny Cat or the Black Market Alliance's combat mech, this arrow would have pierced through the bulletproof glass and killed the pilot in the cockpit. However, this was a Blue Moon combat mech. The quality of its bulletproof glass was far superior to the technology of human bulletproof glass. One arrow did not kill the enemy. In the next second, Charlotte leaped to the side and disappeared under the wall. The Blue Moon combat mech suddenly turned around. Without any hesitation, it held the heavy energy machine gun in its hands and fired in the direction of the arrow. Boom, boom, boom. The energy machine guns roared furiously and the mech armor vibrated. Energy bullets flew out one after another. The already dilapidated building trembled and shook amidst the rumbling explosions. In less than 30 seconds, a 3-story building collapsed with a loud rumble. If Charlotte had been one step slower, he might have been hit by the Blue Moon's heavy energy machine gun and turned into minced meat. He might also have been buried alive by the collapsed building. However, neither of these two situations occurred. Xia Lei's experience on the battlefield was extremely rich. The building collapsed, and the Blue Moon combat mech stopped firing. At that moment, a person suddenly stood up from a crater on the side of the road. The Blue Moon combat mech pilot saw him and was surprised. He could not believe that his opponent had survived his fierce bombardment. However, what surprised him the most was that the opponent was not holding a gun. Instead, it was holding an ugly metal bow. Whoosh! Just as the Blue Moon people in the cockpit of the mecha adjusted the muzzle and were about to open fire and blast the tribal warrior into pieces, a metal arrow suddenly flew over. He saw the arrow, but by the time he saw it, the arrow had already smashed through the dent in the bulletproof glass and pierced into his head. What he saw was actually only the afterimage of the arrows, but he would never know. Boom! The combat mech that had lost control fell to the ground, and the energy machine gun also fell to the ground. Only then did Charlotte reach out and touch his forehead. This was a subconscious action to wipe off cold sweat, but what he touched was the ice-cold helmet of the light armor. If he had missed, he would not have been able to dodge if the enemy had the chance to shoot at him. But even if he had to do it all over again, he would still make such a risky decision because he had no other choice. Charlotte climbed over the rubble of the building and came to the side of the mech. The mech that had fallen to the ground was about 1.5 meters thick. The Blue Moon soldier who had been shot was lying on a morgue bed. Almost at the same instant, a round of energy bullets flew over their heads and struck the rubble of the building, exploding violently. Amidst the violent explosion, the debris of the building flew in all directions like shrapnel from a cannon. Dust and cement fragments fell from the two of them. Charlotte had been worried that the Blue Moon people would come to check on the situation, but in the blink of an eye they had come. However, for some reason, even though she was pinned down by Charlotte, despite knowing that the Blue Moon people were nearby, Kong Tu Nana did not feel nervous or fearful. All she could feel was Charlotte's body, his strong and powerful body. That kind of masculine aura made her feel slightly flustered. Charlotte rolled away from Kong Tu Nana's body and grabbed the heavy energy machine gun that had fallen to the ground. However, he was unable to grab the huge gun handle with one hand, because it was a heavy machine gun specially made for combat match. At least 5 Blue Moon infantrymen wearing light armor were charging towards them. "Are you crazy?" Kong Tu Nana roared. "That's a machine gun specially made for the fearless. You can't use it at all. It weighs 250 kilograms. Just as she finished speaking, Charlotte had already picked up the energy machine gun specially made for the fearless and pulled the trigger at the 5 Blue Moon infantrymen. Boom! An energy bullet flew out. Xia Lei's body was also thrown into the air. He flew back and landed on Kong Tu Nana's chest. Ah! Yo! The two mountains were instantly flattened, and Kong Tu Nana's small mouth formed an zero shape. Boom! The energy bullet exploded in the middle of the 5 Blue Moon infantrymen, and several of them were instantly thrown into the air. 2 of them were directly torn to pieces, and the other 3 were lying on the ground. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. Charlotte climbed up from Kong Tu Nana's mountain, pulled her up, and ran with her. The Blue Moon Predator fighter suddenly appeared, and its energy machine gun roared as energy bullets exploded behind the 2 of them. However, even with the speed of a bird, they could not outrun the Blue Moon Predator fighter, let alone the ordinary energy bullets that were chasing after them. Hong long long, hong long long, hong long long. The buildings on both sides of the street collapsed. Some collapsed, while others were partially blown up. The ground of the street trembled violently, and huge craters appeared one after another. Flames, dust, and debris from the buildings chased after Charlotte and Kong Tu Nana. One more second, and the 2 of them would be swallowed up and torn to pieces. However, in that 1 second, an energy bullet flew out of the barrel and flew towards Charlotte and Kong Tu Nana's back. Charlotte grabbed Kong Tu Nana's waist and plunged into a sewer without a manhole cover. Boom! The energy bullet exploded on the ground near the entrance of the sewer, and the mud and cement that were thrown into the air instantly sealed the entrance. Bam! Kong Tu Nana's back slammed heavily against the wall of the sewer. At the same time, Charlotte's body also fell heavily on top of hers. The 2 mountains were smashed by Charlotte's chest, and they were instantly flattened. Crash! A few pieces of sewer debris and rocks smashed into Charlotte's back, and before that, Charlotte had already used his arms to support himself, using his back to withstand the heavy impact. Kong Tu Nana wanted to say something, but she could not. Her heart was indescribably touched. If it were not for Charlotte, she would not have been able to survive. Moreover, even though they had escaped from the battlefield, Charlotte was still protecting her, using his back to support her as a wall of flesh and blood. Charlotte climbed up from Kong Tu Nana's body. He took off his helmet and spat out a mouthful of blood. This was not the result of the energy bullet's shockwave, but rather, it was the result of being smashed by the cement and rocks while he was protecting Kong Tu Nana. The sewer was not completely dark, and there was light coming from both sides. When Kong Tu Nana saw Charlotte spit out blood, she immediately became nervous. She moved closer and asked, "Are you okay? Where are you hurt? Let me see." Charlotte raised a hand to refuse, but when he raised his hand suddenly came into contact with something soft and bouncy. He knew what it was, and he hurriedly pulled his hand back. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Strangely, Kong Tu Nana did not say anything, instead asking with concern, "Are you okay?" I'm fine. Let's get out of here. That fellow might try to bombard this place again." Charlotte climbed up. Boom, boom, boom. As expected, a loud explosion rang out from above, and the entire ground shook. "Follow me." Charlotte crouched down and ran towards the other end of the sewer. Kong Tu Nana followed closely behind Charlotte, and as the explosions rang out from above, she was actually thinking about something else. All the branded warriors of the Heavenly Jewel Master Academy that I have seen are not as strong as him, right? What kind of person is he? Chapter 1387. A team of 10 infantrymen, a fearless heavy combat mech, and a predator had lost more than half of their forces in 2 minutes. The remaining 5 infantrymen no longer had the courage to continue fighting. They quickly retreated under the cover of the predator. The 3 bodies that were still relatively intact were also taken away by them. It was supposed to be a one-sided battle. The defense line formed by the resistance army was losing ground, and they could be wiped out at any time. However, with the sudden appearance of the Black Market Alliance and the insanely strong Charlotte, the scales of victory tilted in their favor. It came so quickly and so suddenly that even after the battle was over, the resistance army soldiers were still in a daze. They could not believe that it was real. Charlotte slung the metal bow over his shoulder, picked up an assault rifle, and walked toward the battlefield. Where are you going? Nana caught up to Charlotte. Charlotte, who was not wearing a helmet, smiled at Nana. I'm going to find our hero. Our hero? Nana was taken aback at first, but then she said with certainty, You are our hero. No, 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 I'm not a hero. Hayakawa Shinsuke is the hero of this battle. After a pause, he added, I saw him charge forward without any regard for his own life. I wonder if he's dead yet? Nana was speechless. The battlefield was littered with the bodies of the Black Market Alliance's armed men and 2 combat mechs that had been blown to pieces. Hayakawa Shinsuke led the Black Market Alliance's armed men to charge at the Blue Moon People's defense line. With the Blue Moon People's firepower, it would be a miracle if they could survive. However, this scene probably happened while Charlotte was sniping the fearless heavy combat mech and dodging the Predator's aerial attack, so he did not see it at all. Charlotte weaved through the battlefield in search of Hayakawa Shinsuke. Nana followed behind Charlotte like a shadow. Mr. Xia, who are you? Charlotte said as he walked. You should have heard from Ramona or Li and I. My situation is very special. I don't know who I am. I only remember a name about my past. But I don't even know if this name is real. It might be an alias, a fake name. I don't believe it. Nana frowned. Charlotte shrugged. Then I can't do anything about it. I don't even know myself. How can I tell you? But is it important to you? Nana wanted to say something but stopped. Charlotte said, Go back and bring the fearless heavy mech and the energy machine gun to the dungeon. Keep the energy machine gun for me. It's my loot. A machine gun that weighed a few 100 kilograms, Charlotte naturally didn't want to bring it along with him into the Forest of Rest. He just wanted to study it. He was a mechanic, and he was also a firearms magnate on Earth. Any advanced weapon had a strong attraction to him. I can give it to you, but you have to tell me who you are, Nana said. Charlotte suddenly stopped and moved his face closer to Nana. His eyes were piercing, full of aggression and provocation. What do you want? Nana took a step back. A second ago, Charlotte was a hero, but in the blink of an eye, he had become a pervert. The problem was that he switched between the 2 roles so naturally, without any signs of pretense. It gave her the impression that he was a hero, but at the same time, a pervert. Charlotte chuckled. I'm starting to suspect that I'm really your fiancé. Since you want to know about my past, is it because I'm really your fiancé? You want to awaken our memories? If you want, I think we can do it another way. Why don't? Although he didn't say why not, it was a very obvious hint. Nana blushed and then said angrily, What nonsense are you talking about? Please have some dignity. I'm not the kind of woman you can tease just because you want to. Charlotte said, I know you're the commander-in-chief of the resistance, so you should return to your people and not follow behind me. You. Nana was instantly enraged. With her status and beauty, the number of people pursuing her was already in the triple digit. Each of those men was more outstanding than the other, and their looks were naturally 1 in 1,000. Those men would always think of ways to please her, but this guy in front of her didn't care about her at all. A woman's pride was very strong, and now her pride had been hurt by Charlotte. Xia Lei, however, ignored her and continued walking forward. Nana looked at Charlotte's back. She wanted to chase after him, but after hesitating for a moment she turned around and left. She was a proud woman, and she would not stick to any man like a plaster, even if it was the best man in the world. Although Charlotte didn't look back, he heard Nana's footsteps as she left. He only breathed a sigh of relief when he was sure that Nana would not chase after him. You want to know me and then let me join the resistance? I'm not the kind of little boy who will be charmed by you just because you're good-looking and sexy. The resistance is very important to this world, but it's not my stage. I won't join the resistance. As he continued walking, Charlotte finally found the person he was looking for, Hayakawa Shinsuke. The guy was lying on the ground, and his body was covered in blood. When he first saw him, Charlotte thought that he was dead, but upon closer inspection, he found that the blood on Hayakawa Shinsuke's body belonged to one of the armed men next to him. The armed man had been blasted in half, and the pieces of his body and his blood stained Hayakawa Shinsuke's body. Hayakawa Shinsuke was not dead, but he was knocked out. Hayakawa Shinsuke's luck was unbelievably good, but that was where his luck ended. Charlotte grabbed Hayakawa Shinsuke's leg and dragged him towards a crater. Bang! Hayakawa Shinsuke was tossed into the crater that was about 2 meters deep like a piece of pork. The intense tremor and pain woke him up, and then he saw a man standing beside him, and a familiar face. He hated that face. Charlotte squatted down and patted Hayakawa Shinsuke's shoulder with a warm smile on his face. "Mr. Hayakawa, you're awake?" Hayakawa Shinsuke used his hands to push himself up, but just as he was about to get up, Xiaolei pressed him down again. He reached out to grab the gun, but there was nothing there. Charlotte handed an energy pistol to Hayakawa Shinsuke and waved it. "Are you looking for a gun? Is this yours?" "It's mine, thank you." Hayakawa Shinsuke reached for the gun. Charlotte suddenly pulled his hand back. "I can't give it to you. If I give it to you, you'll shoot me, right? You're thinking of taking the gun and blowing my head off, aren't you?" "What are you talking about?" Hayakawa Shinsuke's face darkened. "What do you want? Have you forgotten? In front of Songji's stone tower, I told you to remember my face, so that the next time you see me, you'll know who you're facing," Charlotte said. His tone was calm, but there was a bone-chilling coldness in his voice. Hayakawa Shinsuke suddenly realized something, and he tensed up. But he was a man who had been through a lot, and he quickly calmed down. "What do you want?" "You're a smart man. I'm sure you know what I want," Charlotte said with a smile. "How dare you?" Hayakawa Shinsuke was so angry that he laughed. "I'm the master of the underground city, appointed by the Black Market Alliance. If you dare kill me, the entire Black Market Alliance will hunt you down. Didn't you say that you'll remember my face, and then my face will appear everywhere on this planet? You've already threatened me once, and now you want to threaten me again?" "Calm down. I haven't done that yet," Hayakawa Shinsuke said. Hayakawa explained, "What happened in the underground city is a scandal to me. I don't want it to get out, I just want to kill me personally?" "Yes, but I've changed my mind. I'm willing to be your friend." Hayakawa Shinsuke extended a hand to Charlotte, his face full of sincerity. "If we work together, we'll definitely make a fortune." Charlotte brushed Hayakawa Shinsuke's hand away and laughed. "You've already succeeded. You've already done something big. Don't be too greedy, or else what will those young people think?" Hayakawa Shinsuke was stunned. "I've succeeded? What do you mean?" Charlotte said, "You led the Black Market Alliance to fight against the Blue Moon people, and you sacrificed yourselves for the future of humanity. You've become a glorious martyr. Isn't that a success?" "You motherf asterisk cur, slap." Before Hayakawa Shinsuke could finish cursing, Charlotte raised his hand and slapped Hayakawa Shinsuke's face. Hayakawa Shinsuke tilted his head, and half of his face swelled up. "You can't kill me. I'm the master of the underground city. I'm an important member of the Black Market Alliance." Hayakawa Shinsuke roared. Charlotte slowly picked up a piece of metal from beside his feet. It was a fragment of the Black Market Alliance's humanoid mech. It was sharp, and it looked like an ugly military knife. You have to think this through. If you kill me, the Black Market Alliance will not let you go." Hayakawa Shinsuke was terrified. Charlotte said calmly, "You led the Black Market Alliance to fight bravely, but unfortunately, you were hit by a fragment of a destroyed mech. You bled to death. You are a martyr, and you have brought glory to the Black Market Alliance. You squelch. The metal fragment pierced Hayakawa Shinsuke's neck, and the sharp fragment cut open his carotid artery. Blood spurted out. Hayakawa Shinsuke clutched the wound in fear, but the blood still seeped through the gaps between his fingers. He wanted to grab hold of Charlotte, but his body had lost its strength. His brain started to feel dizzy from the loss of blood. He tried to keep his eyes open, and he saw Charlotte slowly crawl up the crater. Then, his eyes fell into darkness. Charlotte turned around to look at Hayakawa Shinsuke, and then he kicked a rock. The rock hit Hayakawa Shinsuke in the face. Goodbye, Hayakawa Shinsuke. Your funeral will be grand, Charlotte said, and then he walked toward the resistance camp. The resistance soldiers were cheering. Chapter 1388. The fearless mech was hauled into the Undercity by a flat carriage, along with the mech's heavy energy machine gun. When the train entered the Undercity's central station, the citizens cheered and applauded for their hero. The young ladies were bold and gave the resistance soldiers a passionate kiss. The surviving members of the Black Market Alliance sneaked away. They found Hayakawa Shinsuke's body. The poor guy had been shot in the neck by a piece of shrapnel. He had bled to death. Hayakawa Shinsuke was dead, and most of the Black Market Alliance's men in the Undercity were dead. Even the mech was destroyed by the Blue Moon people. How were they going to control the city? If they did not leave now, they would die at the hands of the resistance army that was about to take over the city. Give Hayakawa Shinsuke a grand funeral. After all, he died for the Undercity. Anyone who fought against the Blue Moon people deserves our respect, Kanta Nana said as she stood beside Hayakawa Shinsuke's body. Liang Tao looked at Hayakawa Shinsuke's body and smiled. Seeing him like this, I can't help but think of the time when he charged into the Blue Moon Army's front line. I don't understand. Why did he suddenly become so brave and strong? It's like he has become a different person. You have to ask him. Kanta Nana's gaze moved to a man. The man was carrying a little girl in front of the welcoming crowd. There were 8 girls standing on the little girl. They were not very old, only 17 or 18 years old. Their bodies were not mature, but they were very good-looking. After all, the girls that were selected by Song Ji to be auctioned in the exhibition hall had to be pretty. The ugly ones would have been raped by Song Ji and his men. Are those girls students? They seem to know Charlotte, Kanta Nana asked Liang Tao. Liang Tao's mouth curled into an intriguing smile. Those are the girls he saved from Song Ji. They are all girls from the same village. That village was destroyed by Song Ji, and their relatives were all killed by Song Ji. They were homeless, so Charlotte took them in. Kanta Nana smirked. Then they probably jumped from one pit of fire to another. I bet that if those 8 girls had turned into boys, Charlotte wouldn't have taken them in. He's a pervert. Liang Tao shrugged and didn't say anything, but he secretly said in his heart, 8 boys? If it were me, I wouldn't take him in. There is no love without reason in this world. Ramona moved closer to Kanta Nana and said in a low voice, Commander, Mr. Xia is a one what? Kanta Nana looked at Ramona curiously. Ramona hesitated for a moment, but in the end she still moved her head closer to Kanta Nana's ear and whispered, He's actually a pervert. Those 8 girls are feeding him. Kanta Nana was stunned as though she was struck by lightning. At that moment, Charlotte put down his goddaughter, Gu Kursin, and turned to walk over. Commander Kantu, get your people to move the fearless mech to a safe place. As for that energy machine gun, I want to study it. Pervert. Kanta Nana's voice was very soft, and her eyes were not friendly at all. Charlotte was stunned. HM? Kanta Nana changed her tone and said, I will get someone to send that fearless mech to the armory. You can study it, but you can't take it away. That energy machine gun is also a very important spoil of war. It will be very useful to us. Charlotte said, All right, I just want to study the fearless mech and its weapon system. After that, you can do whatever you want with it. Nana quickly made the arrangement. Someone used the light rail station's tower crane to load the fearless mech onto a flatbed truck. Then, the truck carried the fearless mech to the armory. When Charlotte was preparing to go to the armory, Mu Kaiyun walked over with Gu Kursin in hand. There were also 7 other girls from the Mu family village, and they immediately surrounded Charlotte. Charlotte smiled bitterly and said, "Didn't I tell you to go back? Why are you here again?" Gu Kursin said in a childish voice, "Daddy, Auntie Mu said she prepared something delicious for you. She wants you to go back and eat it." Delicious food? Charlotte suddenly thought of something. As expected, Mu Kaiyun came over. "Master, didn't you say before you went to the battlefield that I would squeeze a bowl of milk for you to eat when you came back? That bowl of milk was still warm when you came back in triumph." Charlotte was speechless. Mu Xiang came over. "Master, why don't I go home and bring it for you?" "No, no, no." Charlotte hurriedly said, "Let's go home, let's go home." Drinking milk in front of so many resistance army soldiers and so many citizens of the desolate city, and it was even being squeezed by a few young girls. His title of pervert would probably sweep through the entire desolate city like a whirlwind, and then spread to the entire planet with the desolate city as the center, right? He could not prevent others from knowing his secret of drinking milk, because he had to drink milk. But to him, the fewer people who knew this secret, the better. The girls from the Mu family village crowded around Charlotte, chatting and laughing as they walked in the direction of Ping and residence. It was a warm and intimate scene. "See, he must have gone back to drink milk," Ramona said in Nana's ear. "Pervert," Nana said. Her gaze was complicated, and her heart was filled with terrible feelings. Liang Tao could not stand it anymore. He muttered to himself, "This pervert helped us win this very crucial war. Fortunately, he is on our side. I also remember that it was this pervert who helped us rescue the biological scientist Han Yifei from the Heavenly Jewel Academy, as well as the precious scientific research materials and experimental records left by Professor Pang Bei." Nana blushed. "I'm not talking about him." "Why are you muttering to yourself?" Liang Tao looked at Ramona with a serious expression. "Go back and write me a self-reflection report." "Yes." Ramona stood at attention, and her dark face blushed with embarrassment. Women, no matter what status they had, seemed to have the habit of gossiping. A quarter of an hour later, Charlotte arrived at the Resistance Army's armory. The girls from the Mu family village had squeezed a bowl of hot milk for him to replenish the energy he had consumed on the battlefield. Now, he was 100 times more energetic and vigorous. To him, days with milk were the most comfortable days. Lan Ji originally wanted to follow Charlotte to the armory, but Charlotte rejected her. She was not familiar with the people of the Resistance Army, and with her identity, she was actually very sensitive to everyone here. He told her to continue staying in Peace Residence, and not to go out easily. The armory of the Resistance Army was a natural cave on a rock wall. It was very wide, at least 1,000 square meters in area. The warehouse was piled with a pitiful amount of old weapons, vehicles, clothes, and some miscellaneous supplies. The first thing Charlotte felt when he entered the armory was that it was shabby. The Resistance Army led by Nana and Liang Tao seemed to have the word poor deeply ingrained in their bones. The fearless combat mech seized from the battlefield was placed in the armory, and it instantly became the most luxurious existence. When Charlotte arrived, a few engineers of the Resistance Army were surrounding the fearless combat mech. Some were inspecting it, some were testing it with instruments, and some were arguing about something. Nana and Liang Tao were also at the side, and the two were also discussing topics related to the fearless combat mech in a low voice. Charlotte walked over. "Brother, you're here." When Liang Tao saw Charlotte, he came over to greet him. Charlotte said, "Brother Liang, why hasn't anyone tried this fearless combat mech? I used a bow and arrow to kill the Blue Moon warrior who was controlling it. I didn't destroy its power system or operating system at all." Liang Tao looked at Charlotte with a strange expression. Nana's eyes were also filled with surprise and curiosity. A golden-haired engineer looked at Charlotte and said with a slightly mocking tone, "Friend, are you from the mountains? Controlling the Blue Moon warrior's mech? Some people have tried since the Holy Thunder era, but until now, no one has succeeded. The Blue Moon warrior's mech can only defend, but it can't be controlled." Charlotte did not care about the engineer's mockery. He strode over. "Sorry, this is my first time seeing a Blue Moon warrior's mech. Can you tell me what's going on? Who are you?" The golden-haired engineer was not polite. Liang Tao frowned and said loudly, "Mr. Kane, he is the warrior of the Blue Moon warrior who killed this fearless combat mech. The reason you can study it here is all because of this Mr. Xia." The engineer who was called Kane was instantly filled with respect. "I'm sorry, Mr. Xia, Charlotte interrupted him and said with a smile, "You're welcome. I know a little about machinery. Let me take a look." "Please," Kane said politely. Charlotte walked around the fearless combat mech and then went into the cockpit that did not have bulletproof glass. The body in the cockpit had been moved away long ago. There were still some blue blood stains on the floor and the bulkhead. The scene of the Blue Moon warrior who was controlling the fearless combat mech appeared in Charlotte's mind. The Blue Moon warrior's movements and the fearless combat mech's reaction all appeared in his mind. His brain slowed down these movements and looked for answers or clues. "Can he control the Blue Moon warrior's combat mech?" one of the engineers asked. Kane shook his head. "No one can control the Blue Moon warrior's combat mech. According to our research, the Blue Moon warriors use a very mysterious energy to establish a connection with their combat mech. We humans can't control that energy at all, so there's no way we can control the Blue Moon warrior's combat mechs and flying devices." Liang Tao said, "Maybe my brother can do it." Nana pouted. "He can do it? You think he's omnipotent, right? If he can do it, I'll apologize to him." At that moment, Charlotte's hand suddenly reached out to the simple-looking control panel in the cockpit. At that moment, the branding energy in his body seemed to have activated something. After that, a voice suddenly appeared in his mind. It was using the Blue Moon warrior's language that Isotabo had used before. After translation, it said, "Fearless 089 is on standby. Please show me the operation permission code and password." This voice did not exist in the real world. This voice was transmitted through the branding energy, and this fearless combat mech was also connected through the branding energy. Charlotte suddenly understood. No wonder the Blue Moon warrior's combat mech looked so simple. It could connect the pilot and the mech through the branding energy. The branding energy acted as a nerve, so there was no need for those complicated mechanical devices to connect the operator. However, the human combat mech had to use those mechanical devices, so it looked very bloated, and its performance could not compare to the Blue Moon warrior's combat mech. Charlotte's hand left the control panel. He had actually activated the fearless combat mech, but in the eyes of others, he had not activated it. He did not have the access permission, nor did he have the password, so this was all he could do. Charlotte left the cockpit. Nana smiled. "How is it? He's not omnipotent, is he?" Liang Tao asked Charlotte, "Brother, what's going on?" Charlotte shrugged. "There's nothing I can do. I can't operate it." Chapter 1389. Charlotte's answer made Liang Tao feel somewhat disappointed. In his heart, Charlotte had always been the kind of man who could create miracles everywhere. There was no difficulty that could stump him, but this time was an exception. However, he didn't show it. After all, Charlotte wasn't an omnipotent god. Charlotte, however, didn't care about Liang Tao and Contanana's reactions. When he left the cockpit and returned to the ground, he walked around the fearless mech. This time, he awakened his X-ray ability. He looked through the fearless mech and observed its internal structure. The cockpit of the fearless mech looked very simple, but its internal structure was very complicated. There were sophisticated instruments and ingenious structures everywhere. He had designed the Kuan-Pung bomber and the Hades fighter. Those were the pinnacle of his designs, but compared to the fearless mech in front of him, they were like children's toys. When he scanned it with his X-ray ability, he was instantly attracted. His eyes would occasionally light up, and the feeling of his eyes glowing was especially obvious. He would occasionally let out a sigh, and the feeling that came from his heart was especially obvious. "What is he doing?" Contanana couldn't help but ask. Her eyes were fixed on Charlotte. She was curious about Charlotte's every move. Liang Tao said, "I don't know. I can't see through him. He's a guy who's full of mystery. I think we should." Contanana thought for a moment and then said, "Maybe we should find someone to investigate him." "Are you talking about that guy?" Liang Tao said. Contanana nodded. Liang Tao smiled bitterly and said, "You're the boss. You make the decision. But I have to remind you that the person you want to investigate isn't an ordinary person. There's an 80 to 90% chance that he'll find out. He isn't our enemy, but once you let that person investigate him, he might stand against us. Have you thought about the consequences of doing that?" Contanana was silent for a moment before saying, "What you said makes sense. All right, I'll think about it. Before I make a decision, contact him and tell him to get ready." Liang Tao nodded his head, which was considered as an agreement. Contanana's gaze then shifted to Charlotte. By this time, Charlotte had already moved to the side of the energy machine gun used by the mecha. Just like before, Charlotte circled around the energy machine gun. Sometimes his eyes lit up, and sometimes he let out a sigh, as if he had understood something. Not only is he a pervert, but he's also a lunatic. What kind of story does he have? Suddenly, she thought of something and said, "Oh right, Staff Officer Liang, there are 8 girls around him. Ramona said that the 8 girls are feeding him. I saw them. They are only 17 or 18 years old. They are very young. How could they have milk? Don't tell me they all gave birth to children for him?" Liang Tao smiled bitterly. He saved those 8 girls from the hands of Song Ji. Song Ji sold those 8 girls as goods. They are still virgins. How could they have given birth to children? Then how could they have milk? Contanana was shocked. Maybe it's just a rumor. Maybe he has some ancient secret recipe. You should ask him about this. "I can't give you an answer," Liang Tao said. Contanana was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, "Contact that person. I've decided to investigate him." Liang Tao smiled bitterly and nodded. "I knew you would be so impatient. All right, I'll send someone to contact him." At that moment, Charlotte left the energy machine gun and walked over. He had already finished scanning the fearless mecha and the energy machine gun. The contents of the scan were all recorded in his brain. The structure of the fearless mecha, the structure of the energy machine gun, the operating system, the energy conversion system, and so on. Not a single detail was left out. Of course, he only remembered those things. He did not understand them. In fact, he did not understand most of them. This was normal. After all, he came from Earth. The technological level on Earth was worlds apart from the technological level of the Blue Moon people. All the knowledge he had came from Earth, so it was not suitable for the Blue Moon people's high-tech war weapons. However, this was not a big problem. With his extraordinary learning ability, as long as he had the relevant learning materials and some time, he would be able to grasp the knowledge of the Blue Moon people. At that time, not to mention operating the Blue Moon people's high-tech weapons, it would not be a problem to convert the Blue Moon people's technology and develop their own high-tech weapons. Mr. Xia, what were you doing just now? Kong Tu Nana stared straight at Xia Lei. Just now, she had felt that Xia Lei was a lunatic who had suddenly gone crazy. But now, no matter how she looked at him, he didn't seem like a lunatic. Charlotte said lightly, "Nothing, I was just looking around." "Did you find anything?" Liang Tao asked. Charlotte shook his head. "I didn't find anything special. I just feel that the Blue Moon people's weapons are very advanced. The Blue Moon people's mecha required the power of the brand to operate. This was a secret of the Blue Moon people. He should tell Kantanana and Liang Tao this secret, but he could not explain why he had the power of the brand, so he decided to hide it for now and find a chance to tell them in the future. "Then let's go," Kantanana said. "We won the battle today, so we have to celebrate no matter what. Mr. Xia, why don't we stay at your house and have a good meal?" Charlotte was stunned. "A celebratory feast at my house?" Kantanana said. "You won't be so stingy that you won't even treat us to a meal, right, Charlotte?" He had helped the resistance army win the battle, and now he was treating them to a meal. Wasn't this a reverse situation? No matter what, Charlotte still got the girls of Mu family village to go to the market to buy ingredients and make a sumptuous dinner. When dinner was ready, the people who were going to eat for free had not arrived yet. Charlotte called the 8 girls of Mu family village to his room. After the door was closed, the 8 girls looked at each other. In an extremely short period of time, they completed a communication with their eyes. They seemed to have discussed something beforehand and were about to realize it. Charlotte did not use the power of the brand to capture their brainwave. He only asked curiously, "What's wrong with you guys? Why are you being so mysterious? Is there something you guys are hiding from me?" The girls hesitated and did not say what was on their minds, but their faces were already red. Charlotte smiled. "So you guys really have some secret that you're hiding from me? Tell me quickly, or I'll spank you guys." It was just a joke, but as soon as he said it, Charlotte began to regret it. It seemed that it was difficult for him to change his bad habit of wanting to spank women. The 8 girls in front of him were not his women. How could he spank them casually? Sure enough, Charlotte's joke seemed to have given the girls of Mu family village courage. As soon as he finished speaking, Mu Kaiyun suddenly walked in front of him. Without saying anything, she opened her arms and hugged his waist. Perhaps it was because her body had entered the breastfeeding period, but Mu Kaiyun's body had already developed significantly. That place was already quite plump. Her hands hugged Charlotte's waist tightly, and that plump and soft place was pressed tightly against Charlotte's chest. Charlotte suddenly became nervous. "Kaiyun, what are you doing? Let go of me." Mu Kaiyun did not let go of Charlotte. Her voice was trembling. "Master, you've done so much for us. Let us repay you. You can do anything. You've already repaid me. You've given me milk. I'm already very grateful. You don't have to do this." Charlotte became more and more nervous. Being hugged tightly by Mu Kaiyun, he could not help that impulse. But that impulse made him feel like he was committing a crime. They were only 17 or 18 years old. They were still just big kids. Mu Xiang plucked up her courage and said, "How is it enough to give you milk? After all, she was still a big kid. She could not say that kind of repayment." Charlotte had a headache. "Listen to me. I'm not the kind of man you think I am. I saved you. That's what I should do. You don't have to deliberately repay me. I'm already very satisfied and grateful for the milk you gave me. Thank you." After a pause, he said, "I called you to my room not to do that with you. I just want to tell you that I'm going to the Forest of Rest with Lanji tomorrow morning." The girls suddenly became nervous. Mu Xiaoxi said pitifully, "Master, you don't want us anymore?" Mu Xiaoheng said, "Master, if we did something wrong, you can punish us. I beg you, don't abandon us. Take us with you. Master, take us with you. We won't become your burden." Muyu said. The girls were all talking at once, but there was only one thing they wanted to say, which was that they wanted to follow Xia Lei to the Forest of Rest. Charlotte stared at them and said, "No, that place is very dangerous. I can't take you with me. Also, I bought a house here. If you leave, who will guard my house? I've left you a sum of money. It's enough for you to live here. You guys can stay here and do some business or something." The girls were silent. They could not hide the sadness in their hearts. Charlotte gently pushed Mu Kaiyun away. "During the time I'm gone, I'll let your body recover from the breastfeeding period. You will stop producing milk. You don't even want our milk." Mu Kaiyun's voice sounded like she was about to cry. Charlotte smiled. "How could I not want it? I just don't want to waste it. When I come back, I'll ask you to milk me again, okay?" The girls heaved a sigh of relief. They knew how infatuated Xia Lei was with their milk. If he said he would come back to drink their milk, they would believe him. "Then drink it again." Mu Mu suddenly lifted her clothes. The girls lifted their clothes one by one, and the room was suddenly covered with a snowy scenery. They really developed. The beautiful scenery of the snowy mountains dazzled people's eyes. "I'll get the bowl," Charlotte said. He looked left and right but did not see his bowl. That bowl was lost. Mu Kaiyun said, and then added, "We looked for it for a long time, but we couldn't find it." Mu Xiang said, "It's probably stolen by a thief." Charlotte, which thief would steal someone's milk bowl? The girls looked at each other and suddenly surrounded him. "Master, drink it." Drinking directly was the most troublesome, but he had to drink this farewell milk. After entering the Forest of Rest, he couldn't drink it even if he wanted to. Chapter 1390. They were just drinking milk, and nothing out of the ordinary happened. Although they were drinking straight, Charlotte controlled himself very well. When the girls thought that the time was ripe and they had some outrageous thoughts and actions, he stopped the situation in time. He hypnotized them, stopped them, and at the same time, restored their bodies from breastfeeding to normal. Night fell. When the huge ball-shaped lamp above the underground city of the wasteland went out, Kantu Nana and Liang Tao also arrived. The two rebel leaders came empty-handed, and they didn't even buy a fruit for Charlotte. Lan Jie avoided them, and Gu Kursin was doing her homework in her room. Charlotte attended the dinner party with 8 girls from Mu family village. Mu Kaiyun opened a bottle of red wine. In addition to Gu Kursin, she poured a glass of wine for Liang Tao, Kong Tu Nana, and Charlotte. Although they didn't know when the Earthlings came to this planet, the culture of red wine had taken root on this planet, and it hadn't changed much. Liang Tao put his nose in front of the goblet and sniffed it, looking very intoxicated. Suddenly, he stared at Charlotte and said, "Damn, this is Song Ji's collection. Why is it here?" Charlotte just smiled and didn't say anything. Kong Tu Nana said, "Is there a need to ask? I guess this house was bought by Song Ji for Mr. Xia." Charlotte still just smiled and didn't answer. Liang Tao looked at Charlotte with envy in his eyes and said, "Brother, you're really something. You didn't even ask me for such an opportunity to make a fortune." Mu Kaiyun said, "Our master wouldn't do that kind of thing. This bottle of wine was given to our master by Song Ji, and the money to buy the house was also paid by Song Ji to our master." This. Liang Tao smiled awkwardly and then gave Charlotte a thumbs up. Kong Tu Nana frowned. Her feelings were obviously the opposite of Liang Tao's. Charlotte said, "Kaiyun, sit down and eat." Mu Kaiyun said in a very respectful tone, "Master, we can't sit at the same table with you. We will serve you and 2 distinguished guests." "I told you to sit down, so sit down," Charlotte said. Mu Kaiyun and the other sisters of the Mu family village looked at each other and hesitated. They did not know what to do. Charlotte said, "Sit down quickly. Don't you listen to me?" Only then did the girls of Mu family village sit down. Charlotte said, "You guys should also drink some red wine. Anyway, there's still some left." As soon as Charlotte's voice fell, Liang Tao said, "There are more? Brother, give me a few bottles. I'll take them with me when I leave." Charlotte smiled. "No problem. I'll get you a few bottles later." "Yes, yes." Khanta Nana coughed. She seemed to have something to say but was too embarrassed to say it. "Well, prepare a few bottles for Commander Kong as well," Charlotte said. "Thank you." Khanta Nana's lips curled into a smile. Xia Lei raised his glass and said, "To our victory, and also to my farewell, let's have a toast." "Wait." Liang Tao put down his glass. "You're leaving?" Charlotte nodded. "I'm leaving tomorrow morning. I'm going to the dark forest." Khanta Nana said, "Mr. Xia, please reconsider. The dark forest is a very dangerous place. No one has ever been able to come out alive after entering it. You're really powerful, but I don't think you can come out alive. Stay and fight with us against the Blue Moon people. The Resistance Army needs you, and so do the millions of people who are suffering." Charlotte said, "No one can change my decision. I'll leave tomorrow morning." "Brother." Liang Tao wanted to say something but stopped. Charlotte said, "I know why you want to persuade me to join the Resistance Army. I rejected you because I have my reasons." Khanta Nana could not help but say, "What reasons? Tell me." Charlotte shook his head. "Sorry, I don't know. I'm also looking for the reasons." Khanta Nana was speechless. Charlotte smiled and said, "Isn't this good? When you need me, I'll appear and fight with you. It's no different from me joining the Resistance Army." Liang Tao smiled bitterly. "Brother, you're really a stubborn guy. All right, I know I can't convince you, but you must take care and come back soon." Khanta Nana kicked Liang Tao under the table, but Liang Tao pretended not to feel it. Charlotte raised his glass again. "Cheers. Treat it as a farewell for me." The dinner went on and ended in a sad atmosphere. No one was willing to let Charlotte leave, including Khanta Nana, who was always against Charlotte. After dinner, Charlotte took Liang Tao to the wine cellar to get some wine. Khanta Nana was going to go with them, but she changed her mind at the last minute and waited in the restaurant. As soon as Xia Lei left, she pulled Mu Xiaoxiao, who was the youngest, to the corridor outside the restaurant. "Commander Kantu, what can I do for you?" Mu Xiaoxiao asked politely. Khanta Nana suddenly stretched out her hand and blocked Mu Xiaoxiao against the wall. Her big and firm breasts immediately collided with Mu Xiaoxiao's small breasts. Mu Xiaoxiao suddenly became nervous. "Commander Kantu, what are you trying to do?" Khanta Nana suddenly reached her hand into Mu Xiaoxiao's clothes, grabbed one of her snow-white breasts, and pinched it twice. Mu Xiaoxiao wanted to push Khanta Nana away, but she did not dare to reach out because she was afraid. She closed her eyes and bit her lip, enduring the humiliation. 2 tears rolled down from the corners of her eyes. Khanta Nana pulled her hand out of Mu Xiaoxiao's clothes and looked at her fingers. Her fingers were dry, without any white milk. She was stunned for a moment, then said to herself, "Could it really be a rumor? Did I misunderstand him?" While Khanta Nana was in a daze, Mu Xiaoxiao crawled out from under Khanta Nana's armpit, crying as she ran, "You're all bad people, only Master is good." Khanta Nana came to her senses and said hurriedly, "I'm sorry, I just listened to a rumor, so I wanted to check your chest. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. How can I make it up to you? I don't want your compensation." Mu Xiaoxiao felt guilty and quickly ran away. It was a secret that she and the sisters of the Mu family village had breastfed Charlotte. She was afraid that Khanta Nana would ask her again, so she did not dare to talk to her anymore. She could not wait to remind the sisters of the Mu family village that they should not reveal the secret of their master breastfeeding even in the face of torture. Mu Xiaoxiao ran away, but Khanta Nana was still standing in the corridor in a daze, muttering to herself, "I must have a good talk with Ramona when I get back. How could she slander a war hero like this? This is too much." At this time, Charlotte and Liang Tao, who was carrying a box of wine, came over. Charlotte handed 2 bottles of red wine to Kantu Nana. "Commander Kantu, this is for you." Kantu Nana glanced at the box of 6 bottles in Liang Tao's arms, and then at the 2 bottles of red wine in her hands. The corners of her mouth suddenly curled up. "You give 1 box to Staff Officer Liang, and 2 bottles to me? What do you mean?" Charlotte shrugged. "There are only 2 bottles left. Do you want them? If not, I'll give them all to Brother Liang." "You!" Kantu Nana suddenly became angry on the spot. "Ah, I remember. I have something to do. I'll go first." Liang Tao carried the box of red wine and left, saying as he walked, "Brother, take care. Have a safe trip." Charlotte said, "Remember what you promised me. Take good care of my goddaughter and the girls of the Mu family village." Don't worry. Liang Tao walked away in the blink of an eye. Kantu Nana looked at Charlotte. "You'll come back, won't you?" Charlotte said, "My home is here, and so is my goddaughter. Of course I'll come back." "Then live well. When you come back, tell me about the dark forest. We've been trying to figure out what secrets there are in that forest, and we've sent a lot of good scouts, but none of them came back. If you come back alive, please tell me the story of the dark forest." Kantu Nana's tone was pleading. Charlotte nodded. "Have a safe trip. Goodbye." Kantu Nana also left. Charlotte watched Kantu Nana leave. His eyes couldn't help but move to her plump and tight buttock. The shape of a dolphin, the perfect curve, was a temptation to any man. At that moment, he couldn't help but have the urge to look at her through his eyes. But before he could do that, a person suddenly fell from above, blocking his view. This person had a sexy figure that was completely comparable to Kantu Nana's, and it was colorful. "Do you like women with plump buttocks?" Lan Jie said. Xia Lei smiled awkwardly. "If a woman is beautiful and sexy, what's wrong with men looking at her a few more times? If you mind, you might as well find a cave and live in seclusion. Don't come out for the rest of your life." A pervert's excuse. Lan Jie's mouth showed a hint of disgust. "You can look at other women in any way you like, but you can't look at me like that." Charlotte said, "Then you must walk behind me." "Okay, when are we leaving?" "The plan is tomorrow morning, but you can leave now if you want. I just need to say goodbye to the girls in Mu village and my goddaughter," Charlotte said. Lan Jie said, "Then let's go now. I don't want to stay in this place for another minute. Without sunlight, this place is like a huge tomb." "Then go and pack your luggage. I'll go say goodbye to them." Charlotte entered the dining room. The girls of Mu village had already cleaned up the table. When they saw Charlotte come in, they seemed to realize something and were silent. Charlotte smiled at them. "I'm leaving. You guys stay here and wait for me to come back. Also, take care of Kursin." The girls of Mu village nodded together. They had already drunk the practice milk, so there was nothing more to say. Half an hour later, Charlotte and Lan Jie stepped on the elevator that led to the ground. The elevator carried Charlotte and Lan Jie up. In the White House, in the Oval Office, Kantu Nana looked at Charlotte on the elevator with binoculars. She didn't put down the binoculars until Charlotte disappeared over the cliff. She picked up an antique communicator on the desk. "Ghost, it's me." Reply. A hoarse voice came from the antique communicator. "Commander, what do you want me to do?" Chapter 1391. The light of eternal sun chased away the darkness, but it also took away the chill of the night. In the silent city ruins, a motorcycle that was still in good condition passed through the deserted streets, heading in the direction of the Forest of Rest. This motorcycle was given to Charlotte by Liang Tao as a form of transportation in return for the box of red wine. Fortunately, he had this motorcycle. If he had to walk, the hundreds of kilometers would wear through the soles of his shoes. Even though the motorcycles in the New World were still called motorcycles, they were very different from the motorcycles on Earth. They burned compressed fuel, and the energy density was 5 times that of normal gasoline. The energy conversion rate was 90%, while normal gasoline only had an energy conversion rate of 30%. This new type of compressed fuel was called New Energy 99 fuel. A full tank of the motorcycle could travel for 2,000 kilometers, so there was no need to carry any backup fuel. It was enough for Charlotte to make a round trip. Even though there was no backup fuel, Charlotte still brought a lot of things. A set of Blue Moon light armor, an Avenger 1000 sniper rifle, an assault rifle, a Blue Moon energy pistol, and some jungle exploration equipment and tools. There was also his metal bow, 12 metal arrows, and some ammunition. All of these equipment weighed about 50 kilograms, and with the addition of food and water, the total weight was about 200 kilograms. To explore the Forest of Rest, the relevant preparations had to be done. Longier did not bring much equipment. She only brought an assault rifle and a machete for cutting branches and vines. She was a native of the Forest of Rest, so she did not need to bring too much equipment. However, Charlotte did not trust her that much, so he brought everything he needed. He had been tricked by women on Earth many times, and he had learned not to trust women easily, especially beautiful women of other races. The motorcycle passed through the deserted city without a hitch. The city was getting further and further behind them. When it was about to disappear from sight, Charlotte could not help but look back. For some reason, he felt a little nostalgic for the ruined city. "Let's go." "Stop looking," Longier said. "You might not come back alive, so there is no point in looking. If you're scared, you can go back. Just give me the car." The front wheel of the motorcycle suddenly ran over a rock, causing the body of the motorcycle to shake violently. Charlotte hurriedly turned around to stabilize the front of the motorcycle. Longier, who was sitting in the back seat, lost her balance and threw herself on his back. She hugged his waist tightly with her hands. He suddenly felt a warm and soft pressure on his back. This seemed to be the benefit of being a chauffeur. However, Longier quickly let go of Charlotte's waist. She was a little embarrassed and said, "Can't you ride properly?" Charlotte smiled and said, "The road is bad, what can I do?" Longier snorted coldly. "You did it on purpose, didn't you? Pervert." At this moment, a cloud of smoke suddenly rose from the side, accompanied by the roar of an engine. Charlotte shifted his gaze in that direction. At that moment, more than a dozen vehicles of various sizes sprinted over from a wasteland. Those vehicles included extremely heavy trucks, off-road vehicles, and off-road motorcycles. No matter what kind of vehicle it was, it had been modified. The front and side of the car were equipped with sharp spikes and knife-like metal fragments. Every car had a white flag on it, and a skull was painted on it with black paint. The skull had a thick black beard on its chin, and it looked especially strange. The long-bearded skull. Just from the emblem on the flag, Charlotte knew who had caught up. It was Blackbeard's team. "Who are those people?" Longier suddenly became nervous. "Have you heard of Blackbeard?" Charlotte stepped on the accelerator and the off-road motorcycle flew forward. "No. Those guys seem to have been lying in ambush here in advance. Did someone betray you?" "Don't worry about that. Get ready to fight." Charlotte drove the off-road motorcycle forward as fast as he could. The appearance of Blackbeard's men was indeed sudden, but he did not feel that it was strange. Before Song-ji died, he had sent a letter to Blackbeard, but Blackbeard did not appear in the wasteland. He only sent a few of his men in. He killed those men, but that did not mean he could cut off Blackbeard's information. After Hayakawa Shinsuke's death, the surviving members of the Black Market Alliance escaped from the wasteland. It was very easy for Blackbeard to obtain information from those armed men. Blackbeard's motorcade rushed onto the road. The engines roared, and all the vehicles madly chased after the off-road motorcycle that Charlotte and Longier were riding. Ding ding ding, a machine gunner on an off-road vehicle fired, and bullets whizzed toward Charlotte and Lan Ji. Charlotte saw the machine gunner's movements in advance from the rear view mirror, and the direction of the muzzle. The moment before the machine gunner fired, he suddenly turned the front of the motorcycle to the side, and the body of the off-road motorcycle suddenly deviated from the straight path. At that moment, a burst of bullets flew past the body of the motorcycle, and a few hit the surface. Sparks flew, and a few fist-sized craters appeared on the heavily weathered road. Without waiting for the machine gunner to adjust the direction of the shooting, Charlotte slammed the front of the motorcycle again, and the body of the motorcycle drifted to the other side of the road. So, the sound of bullets flying could be heard. "Shoot!" Charlotte roared. "Do you want to die? Shoot them!" Lan Ji snapped out of her panic. She picked up the assault rifle she carried and fired at a motorcycle that was chasing after them. Bang bang bang, the assault rifle vibrated, and the bullets flew out one after another, but none of them hit the target. The Akimis woman from the Forest of Rest was clearly not good at using firearms. Her marksmanship was terrible to the point that it was unbearable to watch. Lan Ji finished a magazine, but she did not hurt any of the enemy's hair. Blackbeard's subordinates, on the other hand, had shortened the distance. The performance of their motorcycles was clearly better than the junk that Liang Tao gave to Charlotte, and they did not carry much weight. Based on the current situation, it would only take 2 minutes for the other party to catch up. At that time, even if Charlotte were to ride the off-road motorcycle, Blackbeard's armed men would be able to turn him into a sieve. "You ride the bike, I will deal with them," Charlotte roared. "Me? I am behind you. I also don't know how to ride a bike." Lan Ji was on the verge of collapsing. "Even if you don't know how to ride it, you still have to ride it. Just lie on my back and control the front of the bike," Charlotte urged. "I don't know how to ride it." Lan Ji braced herself and lay on Charlotte's back. Her hands went under Charlotte's armpits and grabbed onto the left and right handlebars of the bike. Just as Lan Ji was grabbing onto the handlebars, Charlotte suddenly let go. The bike shook for a moment, but Lan Ji was able to quickly stabilize it. Even if she did not ride the bike, stabilizing the front of the bike was not a complicated task. Moreover, Akimis women had a balance that far exceeded that of humans, and riding a bike was nothing more than a test of one's balance. Therefore, with an innate advantage, the Akimis women from the Forest of Rest only needed to feel it. "Ha! I can control it!" Lan Ji roared excitedly. Charlotte suddenly lifted his right foot and moved it to the left side of the motorcycle. In the next second, he switched his left foot to the right side of the motorcycle. He completed this series of movements in 2 seconds, as smooth as a professional gymnast. After completing this movement, his body was completely swapped. Previously, his back was facing Lan Ji, but now, his back was facing the front of the bike, and he was sitting face to face with Lan Ji. Bang bang bang, amidst the sound of gunfire, bullets whizzed over like raindrops. One of the bullets hit the body of the motorcycle, causing a burst of sparks. Charlotte suddenly raised his legs and clamped onto Lan Ji's waist. At the same time, he pulled out the modified assault rifle from the back seat of the motorcycle. The moment the gun was in his hand, Charlotte's right index finger pulled the trigger. It was just a pull. Bang! A bullet flew out from the muzzle of the assault rifle, and the head of the motorcycle rider behind burst into a flower of blood. The rider fell to the ground along with his bike. A headshot. This was Charlotte's style. He would never waste a bullet, not even a bullet. Boom! The heavy truck ran over the motorcycle that had fallen on the road. The fuel tank exploded and the motorcycle was smashed. The body of the motorcycle rider who had been shot in the head was rolled under the wheels, and in the blink of an eye, it became a pile of meat paste. Bang bang bang! 3 shots were fired, and the interval between each shot was less than 0.5 seconds. After the 3 shots, the 3 motorcycles that were about to catch up all fell on the road. Lan Ji saw the scene behind her through the rearview mirror, and she was dumbfounded. Just now, she had been frightened. However, after seeing Charlotte kill the enemy, she did not feel afraid anymore. Xia Lei killed his enemies in a straightforward and efficient manner. Everything about Xia Lei was like a shot of stimulant injected into her body, causing her blood to boil with excitement. Kill, 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 kill them all! Lan Ji roared. The motorcycle's wheel suddenly fell into a pit. Charlotte's body was thrown up, and then he slammed into Lan Ji's body. His chest was facing hers, her leg was facing his leg, and that thing was facing hers. All of a sudden, they were intimately touching each other. If not for the fact that both of them were wearing pants, based on the force of the collision and their current posture, the scene was truly unimaginable. However, at this critical moment, neither Charlotte nor Lan Ji wanted to experience that feeling. Charlotte shouted at Lan Ji, "Do you want to die? Ride properly." Just as he finished speaking, the motorcycle shook violently again. The road under the wheels was too difficult. Deng deng deng. The machine gunner on the off-road vehicle seemed to have seen the opportunity to shoot Charlotte and Lan Ji. He chased after Lan Ji's buttocks and fired a barrage of bullets. Perhaps it was luck, but Lan Ji avoided a pit at that moment and moved the motorcycle to a place outside the trajectory of the bullet. However, because of her adjustment, Charlotte's bullets that killed the machine gunner missed. "You better ride me properly, idiot." Charlotte was really angry. "Is that all?" Lan Ji bit her lip. "What? Tear my clothes and pants?" Lan Ji shouted at Charlotte. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.